אוקיי, צ'ט. לא מבינים מה קרה, נהרס הלייב הקודם שהלייב של חצי שעה, וכל החצי שעה דיברתי איתכם על מה שקרה, אז אנחנו עכשיו פותחים לייב חדש ואני אין לי זמן, אבל אני אספר לכם בקצרה מה הולך להיות בלייב הזה ולמה שבוע לייב. אז בשבוע האחרון לא היה לייב, כי לא היה לי כזה כוח לשדר וגם לא היה כל כך על מה לשדר. בשבוע האחרון שהיה עליתי לגמר של הזירו ויקטורי קשקאפ, שעה ביום שני, סיימתי 115 נקודות, היה לי 5 משחקים לא טובים, ואז הבאתי משחק אחד ווין עם 3 קילים ועליתי לגמר. בגמר לא זכיתי בכסף וגם לא הייתי כזה קרוב, לא הלך כזה טוב. זה היה הטורניר ששחקתי בו, הגעתי לרנק אליט בבטל רויאל ולרנק פלטינום בזירו בילד, בטל רויאל, כאילו בזירו בילד. מה שעוד היה קדיק את הפיקט של ה-FNCS ב-1200 ביבק, נתונים גם לקנות, ראיתי שמלא אנשים קנו, וזה מה שהסברתי בלייב הקודם שאני נמחק. בקיצור, מה שהולך להיות בלייב הזה, אנחנו יודעים לצפות בגמר הגדול של ה-FNCS על $2 מיליון שעכשיו משודר באמריקה, בטקסס, ואני עומד לחלק גיפטים וצופים בלייב. אוקיי, אז אנחנו עכשיו בדיוק מתחילים את הלייב. אז אנחנו יודעים לצפות בטורניר FNCS גלובל צ'מפיונשיפ, הטורניר הכי גדול שכבר צפיתי בו בלייב שנשחק בדיוק לפני כמה דקות, אני לא יודע למה. בקיצור, מה שהיה מקודם הראו את בוגה וזה, זה הטורניר הכי גדול, יש שם את ה-50 דויים הכי טובים מכל העולם, שעכשיו שם יש להם שם כולם עמדות של משחק. זה טורניר על למעלה מ$2 מיליון, זה על $2 מיליון ומשהו. הטורניר הכי גדול של פורטנייט בשנת 2024, זה הטורניר הזה, הוא יומיים שלמים, הם משחקים שם עליהם משחקים, ונראה לי כאילו זה טורניר על למעלה מ$2 מיליון, זה יומיים שלמים, וזה הטורניר הכי גדול של פורטנייט לשנת 2024, יש שם קריינים, ואפילו היה אפשר לקנות כרטיס כדי לטוס לשם ולצפות בשחקנים הכי בעולם משחקים ולהצטלם איתם. בקיצור, יש שם משהו מטורף עכשיו, יומיים שלמים, ואתם יכולים לצפות בזה באתר competitive.fortnite.com ולקבל פרסים בחינם. על חצי שעה אתם מקבלים אימוג'י בחינם שאתם צופים, ועל שעה שלמה אתם מקבלים ספרי בחינם שאתם צופים, גם היום וגם מחר. אתם יכולים לצפות פרסים שווים. אז אני צפיתי כבר 40 דקות ואני עכשיו מקבל את האימוג'י הזה בחינם. אני אעשה ריסטארט לפורטנייט ויקבל אותו. בקיצור, אין לו זמן כי עוד מעט נתחיל משחק אבל אנחנו נצטרך ללכת. זה הולך להיות מעניין, תהיו כאן איתנו עכשיו כי עומד עוד שנייה לתת גיפטים לצופים. מי שכאן ירוויח, מי שלא לא. בקיצור, אנחנו עכשיו בפורטנייט ויש, זה מה, תדעת לא שחקתי בכלל, יש את האימוג'י הזה בחינם, לי כבר היה אותו, תזכיר כל מי שקונה משהו, גם את האימוג'י הזה עם קוד סוויס, אוקיי? קוד סוויס בפורטנייט, כל מה שאתם קונים. אני עומד עכשיו לתת ל5 צופים את זה בגיפט, ואני אולי עומד לעבור אחרי זה לעוד משתמש, ולתת לעוד 5 צופים בגיפט לעוד משתמש, וזה בעצם 10 צופים יקבלו גיפט היום. ה5 האחרים לא יהיה בלייב, אבל תשימו לב, אנחנו עומדים להתחיל. הצופה הראשון שלנו, אני לא יודע, למלא אנשים יש את זה, זה בתורן עולה 0 ביבק, אבל אנחנו נותנים את זה. כי אם נגיד יש, זה עולה 0 ביבק, כאילו אם נגיד יש מישהו שלא יכול לקחת את זה, כאילו הפורטנייט לא עובד לו, לא יודע מה, שלא ידאג, אנחנו נותנים לו את זה בגיפט. בוא ניתן לבן אדם את זה. צופה או לא? ניתן לי ניסיון. כן, נראה לי צופה. בקיצור, אם אתה צופה כאן בלייב, נתתי לך אימוג'י בחינם בגיפט. תפתח את הפורטנייט ותקבל שם השנה. זה גם צופה, בוא נותן לכל הצופים. זה נותן לכל החברים. דד סטרינברג, נתתי לך אימוג'י בחינם בגיפט. תתחדש, עוד אנשים, רק מי שצופה אני נותן לו גיפט. רק מי שרשום לערוץ. בקיצור, תירשמו לערוץ ותתנו לייק ללייב עכשיו, קוד סוויס בחנות שאתם נותנים גיפטים נכונים, אני גם עושה את זה עכשיו עם קוד סוויס, תשימו לב כי זה מתאפס כל שבועיים. נבדוק את זה עוד צופים יש כאן, כי אני נותן רק לצופים. יש פשוט מלא אנשים שיש להם כבר את זה. אוקיי, תראו אותנו כי אמרתם בדרך אם יש משהו שתגבו הלו בצט. שלחתי לכם לינקים גם אתם רוצים לצפות ב-FNCS, אבל אני ממליץ לכם לצפות איתנו. יש מלא אנשים בחברים. כל צופה ששלח לי בצד חברות, אישרתי אותו, אני לא רוצה שנאשר את כולם. אם אתם גם רוצים אותי בחברים, אז נשאר את משהו של ערוץ כמו סי. אני מחפש צופים, אני באמת לא יודע, כאילו, יש לי רוב האנשים שלי, זה לא צופים. למרות שכל מי שצופה, אישרתי את הבחרים. דרך אגב, המוזיקה של הלייב של הפורטנייט, זה הטורניר הגדול של השנה. בקיצור צופים, אני קצת צופים. גם מי לא יודע, פשוט מי שצופה אני נותן לזה. אוקיי, זה אני לא בטוח אם זה צופה, אני חושב שכן, נראה לי נראה. כן, זה מישהו מהלייב שלי, אני חושב שהוא היה באיזה לייב. אוקיי, אז אג'ן פריסיה, אתה קיבלת גם תרומות בגיפטים. ונשאר לנו לתת לעוד שתי אנשים, יש הגבלה של 5, אני לא יכול לתת לכולם, אם הייתי יכול הייתי נותן לכולם את הגיפט, אבל יש הגבלה של 5 גיפטים ביום, אז אני אתן רק למי שצופה. אוקיי, זה גם צופה שלי, אני לא יודע אם אני צופה אבל דידי-1 קיבלת את האימות לזה בגיפט, תודה רבה שאתה צופה, שאני חושב שאתה כן צופה. ובן האחרון שקבל מאיתנו גיפט הוא אני זוכר מצופה ואני לא, כי אם הוא לא צופה אז אני כנראה מכיר אותו, אבל תודה. אין לי מושג, אנשים גם שינו שמות, אז זה גם צופה. יש אותו. כן, לכולם כמעט יש את זה. ניתן למישהו שהוא לא צופה שיהיה לו צופים, למי ניתן מגי, לא יהיה. תודה רבה באמת לכל מי שצופה. בשבוע האחרון בזמן שלא סידרתי לא היה לי מוסאבים, אבל נחזור להיות עכשיו. אז בעצם בשבוע האחרון היה רק לייב אחד שעשיתי, שפשוט נהרס ממש בהתחלה. כאילו פחות התחשק לי לשדר וגם היה לי פחות זמן, אבל ימשיך לשדר לכם, אנחנו אף פעם לא נעלמים. והנה אנחנו עכשיו בלייב, לא, בעצם היה לייב ביום שני, ביום שני היה לייב והוא נמחק, אני אומר לכם, ביום שני היה לייב והוא נמחק, זה היה לייב טוב, אז מי שצפה הפעם, מי שלא, לא, אני מצטער, אבל הלייב הזה נמחק. אז הלייב היה שבוע שתי לייב, 3 נגיד, גם מקודם עשיתי לייב, זה פשוט נמחק, אז בדיוק עכשיו, דקה אחרי זה, בדקתי לייב חדש. בקיצור, ביום האחרון, הצופה האחרון שיקבל גיפט נגדות, וחייל משפחות שתיים, נמצא, כבר כולם לקחו את זה כאילו. יש גם אנשים שלא מאשרים גיפטים, אז סתם בבעיה. טוב, אני אתן למישהו שהוא לא צופה. טוב, כל מי שצופה והוא בחברים שלי, יכול להיות שיש פה אנשים שצופים והם לא בחברים שלי, אתם יכולים לעשות את זה עכשיו. כל מי שצופה בערוץ קיבל גיפט. עכשיו, ניתן לאיזה משתמש שלי, אני חושב לפחות שזה, וסיימתי 5 טיפים מהיום. אני אכנס בטלפון ויראה אם יש לי תראה אם זה שצפיתי עכשיו באתר הזה של פורטנייט חצי שעה, הנה האתר הזה, צפיתי חצי שעה ועכשיו קיבלתי את האימוג'י הזה של הגביע. ואם יש לנו את זה צריכים לראות את הטורניר הזה, הוא יום שלם פה ויום שלם גם פה. הניקוד זה הניקוד וזה הניקוד. בוא נראה מה כתוב. The battle between the best defenders in the world. מי שמנצח בטורניר הזה הוא השחקן פורטנייט, הוא נחשב לשחקן פורטנייט הכי טוב בעולם. הטורניר הזה הוא יומיים במקום שנקרא פורט וורד בטקסס. היה אפשר להזמין כרטיס אפילו, הם העלו בינואר מכירת כרטיסים, מי שרוצה לבוא לשם לראות את הטורניר הזה. והטורניר הזה הוא בסך הכל מחלק לאנשים 2 מיליון ו2,000,000 דולר. 2 מיליון ועוד 2,000 דולר. 2 מיליון ו2,000 דולר. כאילו 2 מיליון ו2 דולר, שזה בעצם 7 ומשהו מיליון שקל. וזה מתחלק בין 100 אנשים, 50 דויים. אז כל אחד שהגיע כבר לשלב הזה, הפרס הכי נמוך זה $1,000 לבן אדם. אז כל מי שהגיע לשלב הזה, כל ה-50 דויים, הם בטוח מקבלים הרבה כסף, כל מי שיגיע לשם. כדי להגיע לשם היה 3 שלבים של FNCS. כדי להגיע לשם, אני אראה לכם איזה קשה זה היה כדי להגיע לשלב הזה. עד כאן פה יש 4 שלבים. פה, זה לא מעודכן. פה היה צריך להיות טופ 2000, זה לא מראה, פה היה צריך להיות טופ 2000 כדי לעבור לשלב הבא. פה מתוך 2000 היה צריך לשרוד טופ 1000, פה היה צריך לשרוד טופ 250 ופה זה היה גם 250 אותו דבר. אחרי זה, אחרי שדו שרד את כל השלבים האלה, יש עוד שבוע, פה הוא צריך להיות מתוך כל השחקנים לסיים מקום 2000, פה מתוך כל 2000 לסיים מקום 100, פה מתוך לסיים מקום 1000 מתוך 2000, פה מתוך ה-1000 לסיים מקום 250, ופה מתוך ה-250 זה פשוט בסוף, אני חושב. ואז זה היה אחרי האופן, שזה השלב הראשון, אז אמרתי לכם, פה היה צריך להיות 200, פה מתוך כל השחקנים צריך לסיים בשלב הראשון להיות טופ 2000 כדי לעבור לשלב הזה, אחרי זה מתוך ה-2000 שעברו להיות טופ 1000 כדי לעבור לשלב הזה, אחרי זה מתוך ה-1000 להיות טופ 250, כאילו מקום 250 טופ גמור מקום כדי לעבור לפה, וככה לעשות גם בשבוע השני. ואז זה חצי גמר, ופה אתם צריכים גם להיות טופ ולטופים האלה, זה כתוב לכם כאן, אני לא כזה יודע, כדי לעבור את החצי גמר. ואחרי שאתם עוברים את החצי גמר יש upper או lower, upper זה היותר טובים, lower זה הפחות טובים. יש לכם את הגרנד פיינל, שזה בעצם יום ראשון ויום שני, שפה גם תראו כמה כסף חילקו פה, $1,000 לאחרון ו$170,000 בפיקקס FNCS במקום ראשון, שזה כבר היה. ואחרי שאתם עברתם את כל השלבים האלה, מדובר פה באיזה לעבור משהו כמו 10 טורנירים, עוד טיפה פחות, אתם מגיעים לטורניר הגדול בסוף. ובעצם כדי לעבור את ה10 טורנירים האלה אתם צריכים פה פשוט להיות אחד מתוך 50 הדויים הכי טובים בעולם בפורטנייט, כי רק 50 הדויים הטימים, רק 100 השחקנים הכי טובים בעולם בפורטנייט בקבוצה יכולים להגיע לגמר. אני חושב שהבנתם, אם יש לכם שאלות אתם יכולים לכתוב לי בצ'אט, אני עונה לכם. לגבי הטורניר שהיה אתמול, סתם שיחקתי ברשי, אחרי זה גם שיחקתי באסיה. אני רואה מישהו מחברים שלי כמעט חלה. היה צריך 3,500 כדי לעלות, וזה הגמר על כסף, משחקים מלא אנשים. אני אראה לכם מה היה באירופה. אז באירופה סיימתי 115, זה היה משחקים, היה בהתחלה לא כאלה טובים, אבל אחרי זה הבאת טירים, ובגמר אני לא זכיתי על זהו. באסיה גם שיחקתי לא בסולו, שיחקתי בפולס הזה. 82 שיחקתי סולו והיה לי מלא לגים, גם פרשתי באמצע, 82 נקודות לא עליתי. הייתי טיפה קרוב, אפשר להגיד. אולי אם הייתי משחק את הכל הייתי עולה, אני לא יודע, אבל זה לא היה כזה כיף, אז לא רציתי. קדיתי את הפיקס של ה-FNCS, תראו בלוקר שלי, ראיתי שגם בגמולי אנשים אחרים שלי, פיקס ממש טוב. זה פיקס הכי נדיר במשחק בעצם, שעכשיו הוא כבר לא נדיר, אבל הוא היה הכי נדיר במשחק. ובקיצור, נתתי עכשיו ל4 צופים גיפט, יכול להיות 5, אני לא יודע אם לאחרונה את צופים. מה השעה עכשיו? בקיצור צ'ק, אני חייב ללכת, אני משאיר לכם את הלייב לצפות, לא ניתן, כאילו לא ילך, אני פשוט תשאר לצפות את זה, לצפות בפורטנייט. אז בלייב הזה לא היה לי כל כך זמן לשחק עם צופים, אני אשחק אתכם בלייב הבא. אני שנייה מסיר את המסך. יש גם מוזיקה, יש לי לייב מעניין. בקיצור, קיבלתי כבר את האימוג'י הזה. יש לכם קישור לערוץ הראשי שלי, קישור וקישור לתרומות, מי שרוצה, למרות שאף פעם לא תרמו לי, אבל אני לתרום, מי שיתרום זה דבר שמדורף חיה, אבל זה פשוט נפל פה. מי שרוצה פשוט לתרום, אני לא צריך לבקש קישור. בקיצור, אז עשינו כבר, נגיד, כבר 50 דקות צופה פה, ואנחנו בלייב הזה רבע שעה. אז אפשר לצפות באתר הזה, 74,000 איש צופים בזה, אפשר גם לצפות מתוך המשחק פורטנייט ומוד לג'נד לנדינג ולראות את זה גם משם בתוך המשחק ועדיין לקבל פרטים. עוד 4 דקות שנתחיל משחק, אנחנו נראה את זה, אני חושב לפחות שאני לא רואה את זה. לטורניר הזה קוראים FNCS Global Championship, זה היום הראשון בתוך השני ועומד להתחיל המשחק הראשון. הטורניר הזה עוד לא התחיל, זה המשחק הראשון, מה שעומד להתחיל עוד 3 דקות. עם 50 מלואים הכי טובים בעולם, יש פה גם את בוגה, יש כאן גם את קליק, יש כאן עוד מלא אנשים שאתם בטח גם מכירים חלק מהם. אני גם לא כל כך יודע אם יש כאן. בקיצור, אם אתם צופים חצי שעה אתם מקבלים את הגביע, שעה אתם קוראים ספרי, מחר אם אתם תצפו גם חצי שעה ושעה מחר תקבלו עוד מודי וספרי, יש את זה, אפשר להשיג את זה רק היום ומחר, אחרי זה לא יגיע לשוף, אבל כאילו זה רק עם מודי וספרי ואולי זה נגיר, אז זה לא חשוב, אבל להיות. אז פשוט אחרי שאתם צופים שרצו על פלאים וזהו, צריכים גם לפתוח עוד פיתייה כאן, או ללכת ולהשאיר את הגדלות וגם לחשב שאתם צופים, ובקצור לך את זה כמה זמן צפיתם, כמה נשאר לכם. בקיצור, זהו, לחשב לייב מעניין, אנחנו חזרנו ללייבים אחרי שבשבוע האחרון היה רק לייב אחד, בעצם הוא נמחק, אז היה רק לייב אחד. נשאיר לכם שכל הלייבים מחליטים גם לצפות בשידור חוזר בערוץ, אבל העליתי בשבוע האחרון מלא סרטונים בערוץ הראשי שלי, אני שנייה מראה לכם. עד דקות המשחק מתחיל, אז אם יש לכם שאלות על הטורניר בפורטנייט ועל הערוץ או לכל דבר אחר, תשאלו כאן, תשאלו בצ'אט ונענה לכם. עליתי עוד שם, נייס. בקיצור אתם רואים אותו, נכון? העליתי בשבוע האחרון מלא סרטוני שורט עם העדכון המטורף של בובספוט שיצא לבראול סטארס, גם יש שם כאלה מטבעות ירוקים, יש שם איבנט כזה שאפשר לעשות של הקריב היוונים ל50,000 מטבעות, איבנט של מועדון, יש שם מוד חדש של באטל רויאל טריו, עוד מוד של בובספוט של מדוזות, יש שם גם דברים שאפשר לקנות ובקיצור איבנט ממש טוב. יש שם גם ארוחת כוח שזה קצת שפותח אותה לקבל כוחות למודים של הבוקספוד ובקיצור ממש טוב. כאילו תראו, העליתי מלא סרטוני שורט שהם קיבלו הרבה צפיות, תודה רבה לכל מי שצופה. וכל הרבה האלה העליתי ביומיים האחרונים. העליתי גם סרטון, כאן יש מלא סרטונים ועלינו 15 סאבים ביומיים האחרונים. תודה רבה לכל מי שנרשם. כל מי שנרשם לערוץ אני גם נרשם אליו בחבריו. היום אני ארוויח וגם אתם תחליפו אליהם אם אתם לא רוצים שאני ארשם. בקיצור, אני מקווה שהבנתם, תירשמו לערוץ הזה גם, קוד סוויס בפורטנייט, תירשמו לערוץ ראשי, שזה בעצם הערוץ הזה, אני חושב בחברים שלי. כל מי שכאן בצ'אט, יכול לכתוב משהו. פשוט תחפשו סגב דן ביוטיוב, שתוכלו לראות. או שאתם נכנסים מהתיאור של הערוץ הזה, יש שם לינק, וגם יש כאן בתיאור של הסרטון לינק, יש בכל מקום של הערוץ לינק, שאתם לא לדעת איפה זה בלי להסתבר. תירשמו לערוץ, תפעילו גם פעמון שתדעו מתי אני עולה ללייבים וזה, שתהיו מעודכנים, וגם תשתפו את הלייב הזה לעוד אנשים שרוצים לצפות בגמר באירוע בטורניר הכי גדול של פורטנייט לשנת 2024, כי ועכשיו מתחיל המשחק הראשון. 3, 2, 1, אוקיי.
What is going on, everybody? Thank you so much for your patience. We really do appreciate it. After some technical difficulties appeared on stage, we resolved those issues, and now we'll be working to get our players back on stage and get into the action. So we look forward to seeing that with you. At the end of the day, we're here to see some Fortnite, and that's what we're going to see. As we prepare, though, as the players start to come in and whatnot, we're going to take a couple moments just to highlight just a few duos. Wanted to highlight here Reason and Vidil, a duo that we are very excited to see compete here on stage. There's some Reason fans out there.
Yeah.
A lot of them. Yeah, that's the joke. There's a lot of me.
I mean, there's a reason to like Reason, and when you look at the run that they've had this year, getting 7th, 4th, and 5th from Majors 1, 2, and 3 respectively. I mean, it's crazy talking about the consistency that all these duos have brought here today, and to see them being competing together. I am so excited to watch Reason and Vidil.
Yeah, really interested to see how these guys can do. Of course, they're landing at the Doom's Castle towards the northeast side of the map. They have a couple of teams there as well, so they're not going to be uncontested there. But this is a team throughout the whole year have performed really well. As you mentioned it, Kelly, they had a really nice year with a 7th, 4th, and a 6th. Really, really consistent placements. And they're able just to find really solid games when it matters. They're able to get into that situation of endgame, finding eliminations. It just seems like whenever you look at the leaderboard at the end of a tournament, it's like, oh yeah, Reason and Vidil, they're in 5th. How did they get there? We haven't really seen too much of them, but they sneak their way up, and I hope they can do that this weekend.
And you talk about them being contested, although the north side of Doom Castle, they're not necessarily contested.
Yep.
They kind of have that north side to themselves. They're going to have that siphon point to themselves. They do have 2 sets of duos that are contesting to the south and to the north, which honestly sounds like the perfect storm for them to third-party these other duos, especially that duo that's landing north of them, which there isn't much to go for there. Yeah. I can imagine Reason and Vidil focusing that duo to get some of those Storm Surge tags.
Yeah, and I mentioned it earlier as well, Booga coming in from that west side, they could have to deal with that situation as well. I mean, that drop spot is it's such a big drop spot, so many different little nooks and crannies where you can sort of hide and try and sneak around. I think we expect to see a little bit more of elongated fights happening there from teams that are coming on in, and I love that. I mean, this is the star of the show right here. This Peely, we've been looking at him. I love it. I love it. He's been doing some emos randomly. I don't know if he's doing it for anyone or he just naturally does them. He's just pulling out emos.
He's doing it for everyone.
He's doing it for everyone in the arena, right?
This Peely right now. This Peely is giving us all the energy we have, and hopefully the energy to the players as well. As you can see, they are starting to come back into the stage, get onto their setups, and as we get ready to get into game number 1.
That's right. We are just so thankful for you guys, the fans. We really do appreciate your patience. We are sorry about that, but we'll be getting back into game very, very shortly. I wanted to also talk about Bryson Bolts. When the players came out and Bryson Bolts came out, the arena went kind of crazy, and it's a little unexpected because I don't want to say like, hey, there's duos here that don't have fans. It's just like sometimes the arena will be like, Bryson Bolts are like, rah! I'm like, yo, you guys are, what's going on? I'm down.
I mean, they've had this interesting dialogue all year long where they're like, oh, who's the underdogs? A lot of people ask, and a lot of people say Bryson Bolts, but again, they aren't necessarily underdogs. In Major 2, they got 6th place. In Major 3, they got 8th place. And similar to what we saw from Batman, Booga, and Rapid, they got 8th place by only playing 11 out of 12 games. Who knows where they would have been if they had all 12 games?
I remember last year Globals as well, Bryson Chubbs, they were a team that took us by surprise. They did so well. I think they won a couple of games as well on the Grand Finals day. It was one of those where it's like, where did these guys come from? But that's what this global championship stage can do. It can put you on a little pedestal. It can be like, look at me, I am a professional, and I'm a very good professional player at that. And I think that's what I look at when I'm looking at this duo. This is a duo that have that experience of doing well, Bryce in particular. So I'm intrigued as to what they can do, particularly with their drop spot now. They're wanting that forecast tower. We broke it down earlier on. Vico and Flixie are trying to not let them have it, but they're more landing towards the forecast tower. So what we've seen, some teams like basing up on that hill, trying to stop Vico and Flixie trying to come over. I'm intrigued because we haven't seen Vico and Flixie have too many problems going for that. So I'm intrigued as to what they're going to bring.
Yeah, it's a dump and house and split, and they kind of have this little lake where there's a crash plane. They get tons of metal from it, and then they get to go to that quick rotation over to the forecast tower. Honestly, it's a bit of an underrated split, and I understand why Bryson Bolts have been there all year long.
That's what we need, right? Is another fight for another forecast tower. The observers are going to just be in just a handful of spots across the map. Is there a forecast tower? Yes. We're going to go hang out there. Another duo here to highlight is Janice. It's Pixie, another EU duo. And of course, I mean, Janice, I mean, come on, fans of Fortnite, if you've watched, you've been following, you know this guy's incredible.
I mean, going all the way back to 2020, winning the solo invitational of Janice, and then Pixie having a great performance in the Globals last year with Cheatin'.
Yeah, really, really great. I mean, that was a duo where we were like, another one of those teams where these guys just came out of nowhere. It seemed like they'd been performing well going up to that. But now, Pixie was one of those players that was kind of a hot commodity, if you like, going into this last major of the chapter, because he was performing very, very well. So many different players and so many different players in EU, very veteran players as well. We're looking at Pixie and thinking, this could be potentially a good duo partner for me, an up-and-coming player. Picked up now, of course, by Janice. Uncontested red line rig, Interested to see what they can do. I think this is another team where, yes, it says they're uncontested. If you're one of those teams, Kazi and Aspect, for example, maybe they might look to land on them, but the experience of Janice and, of course, Pixie being such an important player within this duo, they performed very, very well in Major number 3 where they got 8, so I'm interested to see what they can bring here.
You bring up the fact that, like, you know, they kind of look out and go, hey, this is an opportunity, but that was kind of what this year of Fortnite was, right? Yeah. So much of the landscape changed after Global Championships last year, right? It was kind of like, yeah, we're kind of going back to LAN, we're kind of doing things, but once we got there, it was like, okay, this is different, right? Like, now that we're here, next year has to be different. And so many of these duos just looked across the board and were like, maybe I should pick up that duo, I should pick up this duo. Like, it's been a crazy year.
I mean, I always say that there is only one thing you can predict in Fortnite, is that it is unpredictable, regardless of if that's the map changing, the meta changing, duos literally changing between qualifiers and semifinals. We really don't know what's going to happen until the games start.
And what I love about these global events is no matter what happened in all the majors, you know, as you mentioned, different metas, different teammates potentially, it all doesn't really matter because this is where it all goes down. These next 12 games are going to be absolutely electric, and I can't wait to get into it.
That's right. We've got another duo here to talk about Epic Whale and Muzz. I mean, you kind of highlighted them at the start of the show there, Muzz being one of the first duos to kind of win in multiple regions, and Epic Whale, I mean, when we had NA West, when it was NA West and NA East, he just couldn't stop winning. He didn't know how to, like, stop winning.
Yeah, it's funny because I was literally just talking about how duos will split up between qualifiers and semifinals, and I literally was referencing Muzz and Epic Whale right there. They actually had different duos getting into the qualifiers, and then once we hit the semifinals, because both of them did qualify, they were able to switch duos because there was a little caveat in the rules there, and obviously it worked out well in their favor, finally punching their ticket into the Global Championships. And beyond Epic Whale being, you know, the 5X, however many X's he has in his name, regardless of the back-to-back-to-back, regardless of the gamers, looking back all the way to the World Cup where he got 3rd place, he has been doing it for so long. And then, of course, Muzz, the powerhouse from OCE, now representing North America. This is definitely a duo to look out for.
I love watching Muzz play. He's such an impressive player to watch. Some of the things that he can do, the mechanical ability of Muzz is second to none. And I was speaking to him the other day in the hotel. I was saying, you know, you feeling confident? How's things with Epic Whale? He said, yeah, I'm absolutely confident in Epic Whale. It's all about me. Can I make sure that I'm going to play my best game? He's a little bit nervous that he might get awareness checked, but he said if I don't get awareness checked, if I'm playing my game to the level I know I can play it at, I think he's feeling like he's going to be successful, and there's no reason why not.
I love that. Self-reflection, though. A lot of the times, these players will kind of look to outside sources as to what's going wrong. Oh, well, it was this duo that focused us. Oh, it was Greece over here. But players that can look inwardly and understand where they could have gone better, not necessarily what went wrong, but what they could have done differently, that's what makes or breaks these champions.
Yeah, that's a mark of maturity, right? For someone like Muzz, again, like you said, to win multiple times, that's how he got that far, right? To be able to stop and go, okay, now what could have I done better? Because it's very easy to point fingers and go, yeah, well, my duo or this thing or this pod or POY or this thing got removed or whatever. But to stop and go, no, what can I do to really minimize that, like, almost RNG we experience?
Yeah, and there is definitely a level of RNG. Obviously, the most notorious is where is that zone going to pull? And if we have some teams landing on the south and the zone pulls to the north, well, how are we going to be able to handle that? What rotations are we going to be prioritizing? What teams can we potentially face against? Being able to it's what these Fortnite players are able to do with how much goes into it is honestly uncomparable even to some of the other bigger esports out there.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. I mean, you mentioned the zones, particularly now in the low to no mobility meta, particularly that sort of 8 zone, those later stage zones, maybe not in endgame, but it's those rotations where you have a maximum pull zone. It's those teams that have the forecast tower. It's those teams that have got their storm surge early. It's those teams that aren't trying to fight on the rotates. They're the teams that are going to try and put themselves in the best position and find the most success, but it's so difficult to do. It's so easy, it's so much easier said than done. Just be like, oh yeah, just go front side, go around teams, don't get shot, don't go into another team, don't box fight. But it's so difficult to do in practice because there's so many different things going on in your head. Oh, we need a bit of damage, let's hop in there. Maybe that's not the best decision to make. So the low mobility meta really shakes things up. I'm interested to see how the players can see how they do the affection of that, I should say.
Yeah, I love that balance, right? Kind of striking, okay, we're starting the game, let's say we're uncontested, great. We know we have to hit 555 materials, right? Wood, brick, metal.
Yeah.
We have to go and we have to get our loot. What weapons are we doing? What's our surge strategy? Now it's zone 1. We got to start getting in position. We are low on surge. Surge is on. What tags are we getting? Oh no, someone's boxing on us. It's all just so dynamic moment to moment.
And what's been so exciting with this season is that usually when we see loadouts from major to major, it's the same weapons in everyone's loadout.
Yep.
But this major, between the shotguns that we have, the ARs that we have, the pistols as well.
Yes.
There's a lot of variety, actually.
Yeah, there is lots of different loadouts. He spoke about Thomas HD earlier on with that Monarch pistol, expecting some big damage coming out of him this weekend. There's just so many different varieties. Even the new shotguns, of course, you mentioned. Lots of different ways that teams can not have necessarily just one best shotgun, not one best assault rifle. Lots of ways to express yourself in the game. Are you more of a close box-to-box player? Do you like to play a little bit further away when you're taking fights? And that's what I'm interested to see a lot of our teams doing. How can they show their identity this weekend, applying themselves in the new strategy and the new season?
Do you guys feel that, like, in that moment to moment, right? So let's say we're gonna have this surge strategy. We're gonna need this loadout. Does that change moment to moment? Does that change zone to zone?
Yes, 100%. Obviously, you need those long-range tags. You're going to go for the ARs, having to get those storm surge tags, of course. But once you get closer, once you get to the end game, you're going to go fighting box to box. You want to make sure that you have your favorite shotgun. And really, depending on the player, you might see Sovereign, you might see the Gatekeeper, or you might see that Hammer Pump.
Yeah, or even those dual-wield SMGs. Those things are absolutely crazy. I think a lot of teams, a lot of players will be looking to pick those up towards the later stage of the game. When everyone's a little bit closer, you don't necessarily need that range of the assault rifles, of course. It seems like the burst is the most common one for the players that are trying to get the storm surge tags. It's not quite as good in box, so expect to see a lot of teams trying to switch that up going into the late game.
Is there maybe a weapon or two or an item or anything that, you know, if these off-spawn situations don't happen, oh, you know what? Oh, guys, I'm getting word. I'm getting word. It is that time. Once again, from the bottom of our hearts, we are so thankful for your patience. That's right. It's game time. Let's send it up to our casters for game number 1.
When you see us, we want to see W's because we're ready. It looks like the game is just about to kick off here. Let's jump into match number 1. Fort Worth, here we have it. We are kicking things off here at the FNCS Global Championships. And of course, we know what is in store for us.
Already getting a close-up pay-per-view of what's taking place here with Queasy and Thomas. And you have to keep in mind, Duke's Sphinx not too far from this location here at Research Rock. Brawler's Battleground, I think, providing a decent opportunity for a little bit of early clashing, potentially.
We'll talk about those early clashes. We already know what's going to happen here. It's Malibuka Murstache versus the Powered Alex, the Power Worthy. First tags are going to go to Carmine Corpse Murstache, though.
Yeah, that was a big shot implemented there by Murstache. It's going to provide a lot of pressure as well, just enough for him to be able to group with Malibuka. They've already found a Flowberry Fizz. They're getting the shield online. Worthy and Alex know that they've got to be fast on these Avengers chests.
Yeah, and this is not the only contested team, right? There are going to be other fights happening here. Play close attention to what's going to go down, though. Power Alex and Worthy do have a little bit of a disadvantage here, playing the low ground as the standoff starts to develop. Meanwhile, a quad contested drop spot for Peterbot and Boyo, who have control of their side, where Trashy and Threat seem to be in a little bit of a head-to-head.
Well, hold that thought, though, because for a moment it seemed as if we were going to, potentially be dealing with Kazi and Aspect here, but I don't see them anywhere in sight, NDF. I think right now, Swizzy, Yapko, they're just trying to do what they can to prevent themselves from being the victims of Trashy and Threats currently, but also keep in mind what Peterbot was saying earlier on. That bot is always going to be ours. Emma Frost's Medallion and that Mythic Striker Burst, that's everything that they're after, and he's already collected it.
Wow, so Peterbot and Boyo already off to a great start here. Clearly, they have the advantage. Clearly, they even have the respect of the teams landing here not to step center foot into their location.
It's only a matter of time, though. As soon as that reveal Medallion actually procs, there's going to be 15 seconds that Swizzy, Yapko, Threats, Trashy, they're all going to be marked here at the raft. So escaping might not be the solution. They're going to have to fight their way out of this.
We've seen the interviews, we've seen, you know, Trashy and Threat's perspective on this. They already know that they're gonna have a problem with Swis and Yapko, and that Peterbot and Boyo will just be waiting for their opportunity as the time continues to tick on. You can see they're doing just that, ready to possibly pounce here in the coming moments. But Vino and Clicks, y'all, are here, and they are indeed contested.
The moment these names lit up on screen, you can just hear the crowd going crazy. I mean, a clear fan favorite for good reason. And I think the most incredible part about it is just listening to Clicks talk about the fact, hey, we just found out a couple days ago, yeah, we are going to be contested. But for Damo and Resigns, you have to also factor in, this is familiarity for them. Sandy Steps has been their home as well.
Yeah, and this is a lot of respect coming from both sides. Clicks and Vino, of course, just feeling out the playing field right now, playing the outskirts, meaning that no team can, you know, rotate from behind them, whereas Resigns and Damo are content with their side of the map. But Middle Eastern teams are on the set here. Haman and Cow Gamer now up against the likes of CZB and Nathan, who's underneath them.
And CZB and Nathan, I think, definitely one of those teams that I think a lot of people would view as that potential underdog story. But the interesting aspect is knowing that they are going to be contested here at Grand Glacier. And what we're seeing a lot of right now in the players that are just having these small, mild interruptions to their traditional loot paths, and what kind of dominoes effect that might have after the fact.
And also, just look at how many players are alive. This is about as intense as it can get when there's this much money on the line, when you have this much time, right, to wait, sit, contemplate your strategy. What are you gonna do when the call comes? You have to answer it. Chapentini here pushing the pressure, pushing the conversation right now. Ager's not looking good for him. He's gonna be the first to fall, and that's one NA team down.
Bit of a tragic start there for Rise and Agers, but their downfall is Teeny and Chaps Uprising. Bound to be super happy with the elimination damage that they just secured there. Surge tags are always going to be so crucial. And in a lobby like this, MDF, we know that we have so many heavy power hitter teams. That's going to be insane to think about. You have to connect on every single shot.
Well, here's someone who's going to do just that. Thomas HD doing an excellent job holding his high ground. He's got the angle down on the teams there in the distance. I saw Gone in Quanti as well, still at Mount Olympus. We know that they have that drop spot, not for free, but again, that southern side is theirs at the moment. Queasy and Thomas HD are going to be happy with these tags, right? This is the bigger picture of hyper-competitive Fortnite. It just doesn't get more difficult than this. Clearly, we have a lot to talk about when it comes down to Cammy and Seti. This is a team that is a favorite and a favorite for a reason, as is Vico and Flixie, some of Europeans' strongest coming up, and I dare to say part of the new era.
Sparks already starting to fly, though. Vico trying to see if he can get an overhead view onto Virgo and Shadow. A little bit of a wraparound. Virgo now trying to see if he can switch, but Shadow, he's left too exposed. Vico, Flixie, they take the opportunity. They try to collapse. A nice connection, but at the same time, Shadow still standing. Virgo knows it's time to bail. And they're going to force themselves into a disengage, but Flixie, he's not interested in that. Flixie wants more.
Oh, yeah, this is a storybook kind of conversation right here. This is something that we expect it to happen. If you're going to go up against the likes of Flixie and Vico's pathing, you just have to get out of the way or get ran down. And Virgo and Shadow are going to be another NA team to fall here to the hands of a European juggernaut. And, you know, this is, again, I have an inkling just to start for Flixie and Vico.
Hey, there's a big reason why these guys have Reckless Railways uncontested. You do not want to have to deal with some of those up-close and personal box fights early on, but Paper, Victor, B, they've also found themselves in a little bit of skirmish here. Clone, alongside Kremzu, trying to make sure, but they've got to be careful. Look at the stealth opportunity here. Gone and Quanti, absolute ninjas.
They're getting really close here. A lot of danger lurking nearby, and Brazil, of course, known for what they're capable of when it comes down to jumping in and playing aggressive, and they do just that. But no, the ambush was unsuccessful. Paper, oh, so close, escapes by the skin of his teeth. Talking about Brazilian teams sneaking up. It's Persa and Ed also on the prowl right now.
Everybody just crouch walking up to all of the commotion that this box fight is bringing just outside northwest side of Mount Olympus here. And the most important aspect, though, Paper, you gotta respect that 180 turnaround, throws up the middle wall, makes sure to protect himself. But Persa, Ed, They've now found an opening, but it's going to be cut short. Victor V, Paper, all these teams starting to congest here, and a surge base on top to boot.
Here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking Person Ed are recognizing we have to get in a fight. Like, whether we want to or not, Storm Surge is going to become an issue. And if you're unfamiliar what that means, when there's a certain amount of players alive, the game is going to force you to fight other teams. Damage will start to rain in the visual of lightning bolts and take you out the game if you're not being active.
The real thorn in the side right now, though, for Victor V and Paper is it's evident that they want to get inside of that bunker. Clone and Kremsu, though, they are doing everything in their power to prevent anyone else. They might find themselves trapped at the bottom of it for a time being, though, because keep in mind, teams do like to hold whenever they find duos inside of that bunker.
Quanti and Gone also setting up, looking back inwards, trying to see what's going to happen here. Meanwhile, Victor V and Paper really wearing the results of this drawn-out fight on their loadout right here. You can see ammunition starting to run low, builds even shorter than that. It's only going to be a matter of time before this starts to go super south, so if Paper and Victor V can't step up and finish this fight soon, it's not going to be good.
Yeah, but at this point, they have to find closure. There's no opportunity to retreat. You are all in at this stage. They've invested too much time, and they know that they need more surge tag damage as well. Clone, Kremsu, more than content to sit this one out, though, because the weapon bunker is sounding, and they're going to have the advantage once it opens.
Yeah, if they get to jump down there first and, of course, secure the goods, there's going to be a lot of loot that's going to be given out to Clone here shortly, but Paper and Victor V don't want that to happen. You can see how much more urgency, right, is put behind these shots now as they're trying to push in.
Clone, Kremsu, the opening has arrived here, but Victor V, Paper, they're still, I don't want to call it hesitant, but definitely wary of what awaits them when they try to catch Clone and Kremsu exiting that bunker. Malabuka Merstash, though, they've encountered some early difficulties here, it seems like, at Restored Reels. Last we checked in, they were getting a couple of decent tags onto Alex and Worthy, but now, knowing that Malabuka is in that solo position, it's going to be tough to make his way towards a reboot van with this much traffic around him.
Yeah, undoubtedly. Look at Kanata and Cooper, though, on the move right now, trying to continue to find their way not only to the new zone, but play for this high ground, right? Looking for tags off in the distance, and very different strategy for Kanata and Cooper, where we see a lot of those other duos looking to get box-to-box fight, you know, very close quarter. They're keeping their distance almost exclusively now from other duos and other paths of duos.
But I really love this positional check, though, from Kanata and Cooper, because they've taken over a hill just northwest of Restored Reels, and they know all those duos that are far west on the map, far north, they're going to have to rotate through Cooper and Kanata. Kanata is notorious for setting up surge bases in positions where you have ample opportunity to deal some damage to other teams.
Oh, look at this. This is the clash we all expected. Vino and Clicks versus Oceania's Demo there, who just rotated by. They're going to be the first to get a couple of tags and start to get the lead here. You have to be really careful. Vino and Clicks are going to recognize that if they stay in the storm, what's going to happen? Those other teams are going to have strong positions to give them even more of a problem later. But it seems like they want to continue to press the action here.
Kishoro, though, kind of could get caught in the mix here. Not sure if Clicks and Veno have spotted him out just yet, but Kishoro, the moment that he tries to break through, that's when Clicks sees small opportunity to try and bounce in here. But again, MDF, this is getting a little bit more drawn out than maybe what Clicks and Veno were after.
Yeah, because Andalix and Sato were still here. They thought it was just a solo, but now they walk into almost a spider's web here. Sato and Andalix do have heals as well, so they can kind of sustain themselves for quite some time, but I'm not sure how much Andalix has to work with. Meanwhile, the GOATs of the region, the Kings of EU, the most consistent duo in the world when it comes to LAN performances in the recent years, are here.
Every view we pan over, it's like sharks in the water currently. The fact that Cammy and Seti have now decided to just stroll on over so casually, but they recognize there's no real openings for us to chase this one just yet. Let's prioritize our positioning and set, because they can always set up to intervene. Kishoro trying to do what he can to escape, but Vano's gonna shut that one down in no time. And his first elimination goes to Clicks.
Vino's gonna be the first to claim it alongside Clicks here for a big elimination, and that's gonna set themselves off in the right pace here. Still, pay attention on the other side. Kanata and Cooper completely opposite situation now as we talked about them keeping their distance. Visual and Braids are going to step up to the plate. Let's see if they can hit this swing at bat, but nothing just yet.
Something important to consider though, Visuals and Braids, this is our duo that came in at the final hour. Just last night, they discovered that they were going to be participating on the global stage. What's their prep time look like in comparison to everyone else? But more importantly still, Braids, he's trying to make sure that he brings the fight to Cooper and Kanata. They're not willing to fold. A couple of armored walls already expended from both sides as well. Kanata still able to find the shots that matter though. And him and Cooper doing a decent job at just trying to forcibly create space.
And this is not just any backup duo here. This is a team that is very much tenured and familiar with one another. They in fact have duoed with each other throughout the year. So again, not your regular backup team. This is a very, very scary team to be fighting right now, and a huge opportunity like this is not going to be taken for granted. And you can see the fact that they forced these great players to use their armored walls tells a lot. Let's jump in with Merstash and Malabuka here though, as the Storm Surge is effectively active now. Great place to be rotating through here at the Grim Gate, but I'm not too sure, even after being picked up, if Merstash is going to have a chance to really get back into the swing of things, as the Rift Island's already gone up, and we already know who's playing for it.
Peterbot and Poyo did not even wait a moment's notice. As soon as the Rift Island spawned in, these two were prepped and ready to go. Peterbot already taking advantage, putting some pressure onto teams that are just trying to rotate at the bottom of Rift Island. You know teams like to try and utilize some of those rifts along the bottom, but again, when you have a team like Peterbot and Poyo, and they're not the only ones lurking either, Trashy and Threats as well, making their presence known. But keep in mind, Poyo, Peterbot, they've got that reveal medallion.
Yeah, they're going to be able to scout them out in just a couple of moments here. So Trashy and Threats will have a big, big problem here. The hold up King and Phaser, talking about problems, are pushing down into the EU duo. Now, there's something that we know about King is that he's not someone you want to face in a box fight. What he's managed to do all throughout this week is instill fear into every duo. He has challenged players in the practice rooms back to back and has been the most successful.
But the way that you're mentioning that, it's all about the solos, and this is a duos game here, MDF. King trying to see if he can get a little bit of revenge damage onto Reason or Badil, but currently, Germans, they're the ones holding height, and King, he's gonna have to start burning through some of these small shield potions, and the real issue is once those shields crack, Badil, Reason, more than close enough to hear it, but they also need the damage, so the key is inevitable.
Yeah, both sides are extremely aware that this is a fight for Surge right now, and should King's team get a tag, the Surge is gonna flip. They are the team quite literally above them, and it doesn't really get much closer than this, and this is the most opportunistic time for King to take down a duo here. But Reason, there it is. Opportunities start to shift here. Reason and Badil now. Pressure starts to loom on them.
The craziest part to think about too is that they've still got to watch their backs because Rift Island just lurking in the distance, slightly higher elevation than themselves. Peterbot, Poyo, they were definitely trying to see if they could track down anybody for some additional tags, knocks, elims, ideally, but one of these teams has got to get a go on here, MDF. They can't afford to just sit idle. It's either fight or get eliminated.
Here it comes. I'm seeing two shots coming from both sides. Reason goes for it first. Vadiel on the other side doing an excellent job, but a trade comes out. King's weak, and he's going to be the first to fall. Reason and Vadiel come out on top, and even then, it's just enough to stay alive for now.
Crazy though when you think about how many teams are getting caught inside of these box fights, inside of the Storm itself. Merstash, Malabuka, they're just on a recovery tour currently, and it's incredible to think that they're still 156 above that damage threshold, despite that hiccup of Malabuka having to make the reboot van play in the first place. Wax and Ping though, they seem like they're primed and interested potentially, but instead it's just going to be heading to the top of Rift Island. Malabuka might get faced though, he wants more damage.
Little does he know though, there is Trashy and Threats up here. Team Xset right now, still lurking nearby. I'm very curious as to why they haven't gone yet. And we might just find out here soon if they end up opening the box and taking fire, but no, Malabuka takes flight first. And he's going to get pretty far off. Will it be enough,
no
Taco?
way.
It's not looking like the math is going to math here, as Malabuka is going to be the first to fall. He tries to get as far as possible. Murstache will have to land on him and save him now.
The problem, though, is that we're looking at 2 tick zones currently. Monster, Murstache, he can try his best effort, but I fear he might meet a similar fate, because even if he makes it into this next edge of zone, he's still gonna have to deal with all the teams that are already based up, situated, and ready to take advantage of the players that are late straggling in.
Take a look at this refresh from Vino in clicks now, as they managed to find themselves a little bit of a cachet from some leftover action between Casper and Prism. Prism now not being in this fight. And still, you have OCE's Demo and Resigns almost on this warpath with them, continuing to be that thorn in their side, if you will, for lack of a better phrase. But back on over to the focus here as Clix is looking for action here. Those are his walls. It's Acorn, it's Cold on the other side. A very scary team to go against. In the warm-up games yesterday, in the scrims, right, in our practice lobbies, they pulled off a incredible 16 eliminations just to show the lobby what they're capable of.
The real issue is just knowing that for Clix and Veno, Clix, he just needs some white heals. And you're not going to get that at this stage unless you're able to take down another team successfully. Murstache and Malabuka, though, have pulled off a miracle at this point. And it does seem, even though they're a little bit worse for wear, they're battered for sure, but they're still kicking, and that's all they need at this stage.
They do have big shields as well to work with. That headshot that he picks up right there is going to make a huge difference there as far as their survivability is concerned. Major eliminations are happening, though, as we're covering the action here. One of those, it's Peterbot and Boyle staying active here. Down goes Cheap from the high ground there. And they are doing what we expect of them. Very healthy, extremely material capped, and now picking up points. That's a runaway train potentially starting to take form.
Meanwhile, other teams like Huddy and Kovacs just trying to see if they can find an angle. Yuma Rise under a little bit of duress here, but it's back to Clix. Veno trying to see if they can finagle their way out of this awkward position that they found themselves in, boxed up right next to Acorn and Cold. But again, Acorn Cold, they've got decent amount of materials to work with. More importantly still, though, I think that they are certainly willing to jump into a fight if it calls for.
Oh yeah, yesterday has absolutely proven that they can take on any team without a problem. Talk about good teams that are still standing right now, teams that we've been kind of following the story. Victor V and Paper. Paper a little worse for wear. Seems like a bad peek's gonna go ahead and put him on the backside of this engagement here. And Vino facing the struggles of taking a lot of damage here as well, not being able to recover now as they don't have whites.
Still has a couple of flow berries, but again, will that really be enough? Queasy, Thomas HD now starting to surface as well near their area. Ritual, though, takes some big tags, left that wall open just a moment too long. But Ritual, free, come on, coming out of Doomstad. They gotta be dealing with Epic Oil and Muzz early on. The fact that this dude already has 3 elims is rather impressive, but Malabuka as well, still holding his own. Shari's got a little bit of an angle to keep advantage, so Malabuka's gonna look to try and see if he can find a more aggressive push from underneath. Meanwhile, Murstache, again, just trying to make sure he doesn't take another tick from the Storm, but it's too little too late. Just barely makes it in. At least Malabuka can go for the revive.
You know, all things considering, he'll have more HP when he stands up than he did when he went down, so
Fair.
It's not all too bad here, but it is definitely time lost. The surge is active. They need to find a couple tags. Into the box they go. Back behind him is another duo as well, and if he doesn't hit this shot, he's going to be sent back to the lobby, and he hits the one that matters. Malabuka and Murstache are clawing their way out of this hole here, and unfortunately, it might not be enough here. It's so close.
Malabuka is doing everything in his power, but I fear they have finally met their end. Zero business making it that far in the first place, though, but that is the kind of power that Malabuka and Murstache can bring.
Well, here's a couple things to celebrate. Placement points has been reached. We are inside the top 25. Anyone alive now is going to start to be rewarded with more and more points. This is where things start to almost compound for you, so you want to stay up. Vino is down right now. Clix has a very important decision to make here. Do you save your best mate or let him get sent back to the lobby so you can just focus in now? Seems like he wants to go for the save. Armored Wall is going to be the saving grace here for a moment, though. Instead, Vino makes the call. Leave me. Continue to play the game here.
Veno knew there was just way too much pressure coming from the other side of that wall. A fully intact duo, and that duo being Queasy and Thomas HD. There's just no realistic opportunity for Clix to bring that one back. But Queasy, he's actually looking a little hurt here. He might have been desperate at that point, and Clix finds himself in a similar situation. Only has small shield potions to rely on, 2 below. When it comes to the damage threshold, he's got to make a move, and he's got to do it now. But I don't think anybody's giving him an opening.
Well, he's still inside the top 20 now. The more teams that fall, this would be excellent for Clix here. He just has to hold on a little bit longer, and he is doing just that. A little bit of a zone pull towards his side, more or less. But High Ground has Cammy and Seti looking from up above, and it has never looked better for this duo.
Kadu and Sia having already been eliminated. And again, reconvening with Clix's
oh my god
POV, but Clix is just crazy with the movement. The fact that he managed to escape.
Still alive.
Still
he's clutching. Almost a top 15 now, and he's inside the top 15. Could he make a top 10? It's so close, and down he goes to the hands of Peterbot. He takes him down. Peterbot is also a solo.
It could have been anybody in this circumstance, but of course it had to be Peterbot. But take a look at the high ground. Chapentini. And they're looking for even more still. 5 eliminations already built up here, Monster. And they've got a really strong grasp on this high ground.
What an incredible view for Chapentini. This is coming off the mountain here. Seti seems to have lost his teammate now. Has to do this on his own here. But still, anything can happen. But Muzzen Epic Warrior inside the box, inside the lane. He's throwing armored walls down. That's going to buy him a little bit of time. Excellent plays here from Seti. No time to play with this storm, though. He just cannot afford it.
Seti's doing everything he can to try and scale his way up this mountain face, but things are just going to get all the more vicious. The higher he climbs, the more pressure he might encounter. Muzz is going to find himself in a situation. Peterbot goes huge there, though, off of Seti.
8 eliminations now for Peterbot and Boyo here. Peterbot still going, nearly finding another one there. Just moments away now from a top 5 here. Can he do it as a solo? He's getting spotted out, though. Armor wall comes down. Another weak player in front of him. Oh, he didn't get a tag. Never powered out. It was so close. But now the focus comes into who will win game 1. We have just 4 teams remaining. Make that 5. Acorn and Cole find another.
Duke simply too savage, losing his duo Sphinx there to Peterbot, but Acorn and Cole, the fact that they are still intact. 5 armored walls as well to work with here for Acorn. Chapentini, though, they're trying to see if they can look for an opportunity to collapse. Vico, Flixie off in the distance as well. The mid-ground starting to really pile up here.
Well, look at this. High ground starting to run out of material. Vico and Flixie, this is the pick for me. The team that I knew, you leave them uncontested. They're just going to put in dangerous work here on the field, and it is starting to shape up. Acorn and Cold, and a saving grace on the low ground. On the outskirts, putting pressure onto Japan's best. Rise and Yuma, who also has 7 eliminations. Yuma sends up against Acorn, finds a beautiful tag there. Loses his teammate, though, finds another exchange. It's back and forth here. Anything can still happen.
All these teams scurrying to the low ground, though. They're sabotaging each other. Acorn's gonna go down. Yuma still standing tall, but now Chapentini from the high ground, they're just gonna collapse, and that is just another elimination to add to the count. Vico, Flixie versus Chapentini. It's a battle of Europe.
A battle for the ages indeed here. 5 eliminations still for Teeny and Chap. Things are starting to rack up. Teeny, the first to go down. Chap's also weak. They jump in. They close the game. And game number 1, the victory royale will go to Chap and Teeny.
Could it be more deserved? The way that they held down that high ground MDF, you could tell that they were aiming exclusively for the victory royale at this stage. But granted, you have to keep in mind, there's somebody on the ground that can help out even more so.
Dallas, would you please give it up for your Game 1 winners? Chapentini, do you want to step up for me here, fellas? So everyone can see your glorious faces. Let's kick things off here. What a great start. I mean, you guys, obviously, Game 1, a lot of pressure, bit of waiting around the beginning, but in front of these fans. To walk us through the end game, how did things pan out for you guys?
Good. We're the best players, so it's easy.
Best players, easy. I mean, I love the confidence there. For you as well there, I mean, your teammate here, you guys worked to get Vico and Flixie in the last seconds there. You had the high ground. Is that what really counted there?
Of course, we're only playing for height, and that's how you win games. That's it.
Coming into this competition, obviously a lot of expectations, things that might happen. Did things pan out in that first game as you thought they might, or was it very different?
It was different. We took forecast and then we just played out.
Those forecast towers are playing very pivotal in this as well. How important are those in the rest of this competition with 11 games left to go?
The most important thing, if you get that, you win the game. It's easy.
Would you please give it up one more time for your Game 1 winners? Ciabattini, everyone! Oh, things have started beautifully here. There is loads more coming your way here, courtesy of the FNCS Global Championships 2024. A short break from us here on the broadcast, but do not go anywhere. Stay exactly where you are. There's loads more coming your way very, very soon.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the FNCS game number 1. Chap and TD find themselves the victory royale, and that first game was absolutely crazy to see these guys come out on top and to get that interview, right? Hey, we're the best team. You just get forecast. You get this, you got. We're the best team. That's it. That's all that matters.
I mean, if you look at Major 2, Major 3, when they both got second place in both majors, yeah, they're kind of one of the best teams right now. Yeah. And showing up today and showing up early as well, eliminating Agers and Rise right off the bat.
Yeah, really, really interesting after this first game, because we were sort of talking about it going into the first game. Where are these guys going to land? What's their strategy going to look like? We didn't quite know, and now we get a little bit of an insight into what that's going to look like. It seems like they're really prioritizing that forecast tower. Another thing that we focused on at the beginning of the show. They want that forecast tower, and that's the reason why they're able to get height right here. You saw Cammy and Seti sort of shaping up to try and take height and holding it in that sort of 8-9 zone, but they didn't get that next zone. So Teeny and Chap took that opportunity really well because they knew where it was going.
also to be able to hold height for as long as they did, all the way from zone 9. Once again, the forecast tower allowing them to know where to move that height and use or save up those much needed mats towards the end of the game there. Absolutely phenomenal. What a great way to start the competition.
Just again, cold. They're just ice cold, chilling there. Yeah, we're the best. Not a big deal. Man, that is a statement game out of game number 1. But there was just so many things that transpired in game number 1. Just so many solo performances that all took place. I mean, we saw there for a moment, even Rise and Yuma making a top 3. 8 eliminations? That's terrifying. We can't let that happen.
Yes, we can, and they did. And I want to see it happen again. Rise and Yuma representing Asia right now, showing that, oh yeah, it's NA versus EU. You got to watch out for Asia as well.
Yeah, these guys are really looking good right there. 8 eliminations clutching up there in the end in those final few moments. The crowd erupted as soon as they got that final elimination. Wasn't quite enough to get into that first or second, but they've got to be happy with that start, particularly on this stage.
That's right. I want to highlight Peterbot, man. I don't know what Peterbot is about, but I do now. In those final moments, you know, Pollo goes down and you have the solo clutch, and he pulled it off.
And for Peterbot to take down Clicks in game number 1, you know that there was definitely some emotions going high right there. But Peterbot, if he is down into a solo, I mean, he's honestly a duo as a single player.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, both of these players have the ability to do this, solo clutches. And in big events like this, 12-game formats, these solo clutches are going to be so vital in getting these guys into a really nice position. I must say, this burst assault rifle ex Peterbot is a crazy combo. It shouldn't be allowed because he's so good with that. And then even towards these endgame situations, taking out Seti there at that final few moments just to keep himself going. Of course, too little too late towards the end, but really great start from him.
I mean, their strategy is just so clean from the start. Landing rep, getting the coin, getting the mythic AR, going over to the forecast tower, and then getting the Rift Island as well in that game, allowing them to just have a little bit of height, a little bit more mats, and more importantly, getting that mod weapon bench so that I saw Pollo kind of modifying his weapons there, getting exactly what they wanted so that they were prepared for the end game.
I love seeing their 3rd place. Eco, Flixie, a 2nd place. They didn't even need the Victory Royale, right? The fact that they made it to 2nd place, you've already done too much. You've already let them get too far in the game.
Yeah, I mean, they started off so strong as well, getting eliminations onto Shadow and Virgo by zone 1 there. And then, of course, just dominating the low ground as we know them to do.
Yeah, exactly. Another really solid performance of these guys. We've seen them do it previously. This is exactly what we expected. Low to mid ground, finding those eliminations. And towards the end there, where it was the final 2v2, it was kind of like Major 3, where it was 2 of the best teams in EU going head-to-head. Of course, 2 different, very different play styles. These guys are not necessarily going to be going for height every single game. But of course, what I noticed there was a little bit of a change in rotation. They went towards the north side of their drop spot. So interesting to see whether that's going to change throughout the day, whether the forecast tower fight's going to affect that. But really nice start from these guys.
That's right, guys. I know you want more action. We can talk more about this, but let's just jump back into it. MDF, the best taco. Back over to you.
Yeah, that was a very intense game. Obviously, as we're coming out, you know, I couldn't even believe it. I almost, you know, just threw the whole mic off the headset. I was really into it for a second there.
Yeah, and the craziest part still, of course, we have 2 EU teams duking it out to close off our first lobby here. And match number 2 is ready to go.
The battle bus has left the station. Match number 2 is here. What do we have in store for us this game? I mean, last one was surely a surprise with the Middle Eastern teams taking a top 10 position. One Asia team up there as well. And of course, those that you expect. The best from NA, some of the greats from EU.
Yeah, and Acorn and Cold, they haven't necessarily had an easy time about it either here at Brutal Beachhead. You know, you get like the soft contest coming out of Analyx and Sato, and this could prove to be very difficult though for Analyx and Sato, because you can tell the commitment is there, but if they want to take this fight to Acorn and Cold, it could be a really difficult one to actually close out in quick fashion.
We have to give all credit to not only Clix and Vino for Clix's performance to stay alive and secure a top 15, but Damo and Resigns, who found even more placement points, ending just closer to that top 10. So a very impressive performance for teams that were contested that game, actually. When you start to do the math on that, that is almost unprecedented.
Well, it was almost like Davo and Resigns were trailing Clix and Veno the entire match, and if they hadn't actually stumbled upon Kishuro as a solo, I almost wonder if things could have maybe gone a little differently there, because that's what really got them tied up into a rough position. But again, hindsight's always 20/20. Currently, we are focused on the now. Chap and Teeny lingering around the Nitrodrome, but Kanata and Cooper close by means that all they can really look for here is just trying to prioritize their mat count.
Yeah, we do know Kanata and Cooper like to rotate closer to Agers and Rise, who was taken out pretty early last game, so they didn't get to secure that fight, and they found themselves in a completely different battle up against Visual and Braids, and it really didn't go their way. Shortly afterwards, Braids ended up falling to Epic Whale Muzz, so pretty interesting, you know, zone dynamic starting to take shape here, and that's really part of the high level of Fortnite. Game to game, micro adjusting, right? They all know what went well, what went wrong, and it's about adjusting in the real time. But here's Seiyun, here's Kadu against Casper and Prism. Little stands off here, so it seems like this game, similar to match one, is gonna kind of take its time rolling into the eliminations.
Yeah, Janice almost seemingly happy about the fact that these teams kind of caught wind of each other, because that allowed for him to just slip on by, head on out, a red line rig, make sure that he doesn't get caught in the mix. He's clearly just trying to make a play for that reboot max. I didn't see Pixie anywhere near, so almost makes you wonder at the same time. It's going to be a difficult situation for a lot of these teams.
Here's Cammy and Seti. They have angles, they have a little bit of high ground. Meanwhile, King and Phaser getting active right now just outside the Rebels' roost. What is happening here? They seem to be finding their groove right now. It's Visual and Braids once again who are giving some of these duos a really difficult time, making them all second guess whether or not they should be sticking around and fighting them. So, you know, that's impressive.
Yeah, but this is also a really smart disengage from King and Phaser, recognizing the fact Sky Scroll still nearby as well. Rebels Roost just a little bit too poppin' for their interest at the moment, but even hanging around the underworld could pose some issues because they didn't stick around for the fight. Don't know how much surge damage they've actually been able to accrue at this stage, and once we start to get into that mid-game rotation aspect, we already saw a handful of teams, even some of the teams that you wouldn't necessarily anticipate to struggle with their surge damage, having issues.
Very interesting. We get to catch up with Batman, Booga, and Rapid here at the Grim Gate. This has been their drop spot for quite some time, coming out of Major 3, of course, with an excellent performance. You know, if you start looking at the paper trail of Rapid and Batman, Booga, everyone's marking them up towards the top 3 as far as the NA teams are concerned. And talking about top 3, it wouldn't be one without Cold and Acorn. They're just putting teams down. This time, they do finish the fight up against Andalex and Sato. They don't let them escape.
But now something that Sato and Andalex are potentially going to have to start considering is if this keeps going in favor of Acorn and Cold, if they continue to take the fight to them, do you switch for day 2? But I think we still got a few more lobbies to work through before that really starts to become the real question mark here. For Stash Malibuca, though, starting off somewhat on the right foot here at Restored Reels. One elimination already. Curious if one of those is onto either Alex or Worthy.
Yeah, something happened there, but Bolts and Bryce are at a fight right now. Little build-off happening here. This is a pretty intensive early game fight for, given the situation, a Zone 1 Sky base going on here. This is going to be a full-on reset if it doesn't end fast. It's up again, Vico and Clixie. You know, obviously, our second place coming out of game 1. Very much fired up, very much confident.
Bryce and Bolt are not going to fold here, though. The forecast tower, the weapons bunker that spawns nearby Dupenhausen, where Bolt and Bryce like to land. And this is something that, you know, they were willing to contest Reet and Ritual for when it was Reet and Ritual at Rickless Railway. So now Vico, Flixie haven't taken over that position. And it's funny because you asked Vico in the player lounge last night, hey, what do you think about the forecast tower? He's like, that's my forecast tower. You ask any of these players who are actually trying to contest, they'll always tell you the same thing. That's my forecast. And yet, Vico, Flixie, they find themselves stuck because Bryce and Bolt either need to get eliminated or forced out here whoever controls the NPC is going to win.
It's pretty incredible. You got to talk with Vico. I got to talk with Bolts and Bolts' brother, and they had nothing but positive things to say, and honestly confidence about the fact that this is their forecast tower, and he's here, and he believes that paired up with Bryce, they are a perfect combination. So very interesting to see that both teams very much feel like they're entitled to this drop. Vico and Flixie seem to be the first, of course, boots on the ground here. They're going to secure the card, which means they have everything that they need here to go ahead and be the one to get the first dibs. But Bolts comes in, takes down Flixie from up above. Whose tower is it?
Vico might have that key card, but how long can he really hold on to it? He's trying to just get out of dodge at this point, creating as much space as possible. But you know Bolts and Bryce, now that they've isolated Vico by forcibly eliminating Flixie, they're going to chase him. They do not want to let him escape with that forecast key card.
And this is not just an elimination. This is not just a player. That is someone who holds the keys to every single storm for the remainder of this game. It is worth so much more than just a set of points. Bolts and Bryce have to think long and hard, and they end up easing off for a second, but it's because Clone and Kromsu is waiting for them, and Bryce is going to be one of the first to fall now as he gets ambushed.
This was almost like an unexpected gift. Clone and Kromsu were situated exclusively for the bunker, and yet when Vico tried to escape because he recognized the fact, hey, I've just got to play for the reboot. I just need to get Flixie back into this game. We'll deal with the forecast later.
Oh.
But Kromsu and Clone, dude, too slick with it.
That was just dirty right there to get boxed up. But look, Bolts has the card, so he actually ends up finding Vico potentially here, or no?
Vico
Maybe,
dropped it when he was running.
He ends up dropping it just so that he doesn't, bring that heat with him. So very, very interesting turn of events here.
But sure, you might have forecast secured, but at what cost? Because realistically, if I'm Kromsu, I'm not letting you escape. And that's the thing, Vico knew that there was no reason for him to continue trying to hold on. He did not have the materials to feasibly escape unless he gave up that key card.
I actually love that we got to see him drop the key card as well, right? Just saying, hey, look, you can have it, man. My hands are in the air. White flag is waved. Go ahead, take it. And he plays for another day. That just really shows you what this tournament means, right? That's not an interaction you'll have in any regular game, right? There's just something so prestigious about the Fortnite Global Championship that even the players give respect to one another like that. It's incredible to watch.
Wow, this is looking like a menacing situation building up currently, though. Clicks, Veno, Acorn, Gold, Chap, Teeny, Gammy,
Oh my
Zeddy.
gosh.
I don't think we could ask for anything better at this stage, but fact of the matter is, all these teams are just fixated on one thing, and it's likely the weapons bunker.
And you hear it. It's opening up right now, and Clicks and Vino the first to fold as they recognize, hey, there are 4 teams here. This is not the greatest idea. They double back to the campfire. They'll get their chance at the bunker, right? They'll be able to pick up some scraps, get their attachments. But first, sit things out, let things settle.
I like that flyby, though, Janice and Pixie, so it looks like Janice's rescue mission was a success. He was able to make his way towards a reboot van, but again, you have to start to wonder what kind of damage was he able to collect prior to losing Pixie. And now, Reckless Railway is heating up one more time because Vico doubled back, brought Flixie into it, but now Shadow and Virgo trying to see if they can pose a threat.
Listen, Shadow, someone I've known for a long time. I've followed his career closely. He is a very, very scary player once he starts to get situated. Game 1 jitters are out of the way now. Him and Virgo have been nothing but successful as a duo here. But wait a second, Vico and Flixie, as we know, again, are EU's best right now. Clearly some of the strongest fighters on the region. And then you have OCE's Dayanith and Tinka, right? Champions of OCE lurking nearby, seeing what's happening here. Trying to put OCE's stamp on it.
But Vico and Flixie, I mean, we're talking about EU Major 3 winners at this stage, right? You've got to imagine the level of confidence. Even when you talk to either of them, they are just reeking of confidence, essentially, and for good measure, because Vico, Flixie, they've been successful. Despite the fact that Vico was incredibly low on material count as well, he's still able to stave off Shadow and Virgo, and that is not an easy feat by any means.
Jumping to the other side here, Dukes and Sphinx trying to figure out what's happening down here south on the zone as things are just starting to develop. Clearly shots are coming in from teams in the distance. Meanwhile, Queasy has that high ground. Chap though lurking up, trying to see how he can possibly get involved. Teeny already sitting on the base for a moment there, you couldn't even tell.
I don't even know if it's Queasy that's in danger nearly as much as what it might be Thomas HD when he tries to work his way back towards the surge base he has with Queasy. You can hear the Monarch pistol, shots flying out overhead. Thomas making his way back towards him, but he scouted it out. Managed to throw up a wall just in the nick of time. Queasy also on high alert now. But Chap, Teeny, they've made enough noise. Other teams in the distance actually trying to take side shots at them.
Gotta respect Thomas HD's ability to not only see them and react faster than they can land a shot on him, but to also get up to high ground.
Nothing too.
Before it was too late. And look, they're gonna just go ahead and get off of there. They're like, wait, that team, they wanna fight? No, we don't need that. They give them the respect. They back off the restored reels. They play for center zone now. And this is a very, very good early rotate to go ahead and find a new position here, find some new real estate, if you will. Meanwhile, at the Grim Gate, we have another Rise in Yuma coming out of Asia, representing here last game. Phenomenal performance, ending up towards the top, 8 eliminations as well. This game off to a hot start with 2. Look, we look away, we blink for a second, and the double headshot onto Phaser.
The lineup is just nasty. You can just tell that Thomas HD and Queasy probably ecstatic about that loot llama they essentially just picked up from the knock.
Yeah, I don't even know if they want to cross over to pick up the loot at this point. It would end up being all too risky with King nearby, but Chap and Teeny haven't stopped their pursuits onto different duos. I'm feeling like maybe they're not getting enough tags in these fights.
Can also be so disorienting to other teams in the lobby when you're dealing with the likes of Chap and Teeny, because they're just barreling down onto anybody that they encounter. They could care less about the caliber of player that they are dealing with in the process. All they want at the end of the day is the points from the eliminations and to clear out the space to make sure that their rotations maintain their smoothness. But Giannis, layer below, Chap and Teeny are currently boxed up, and they are not the only ones. Premsu, Clone, lurking overhead. Persa, Ed as well. Close enough that they could definitely tango if they wanted to.
Chapantini, 130 below. Just mentioned that they're not finding the tag, and it's very clear, regardless of how many teams they've managed to fight, it just hasn't been successful. But this, so far, looking like the best here. Double armor walls come out. That's going to slow down all of their momentum here. And if I'm being honest, I think they have to keep pursuing it, find a new angle, do something else. They can't afford to stop at this point. Teeny's got a new angle here. He's behind Pixie now. The other duo, basically, that's there is Ed and Persa, who are also very, very weak. It's just not looking good for the Brazilian duos, not looking too good for EU's Jonas.
But every
behind
time.
him, Chap's hurt. Back against the wall, he needs to find the one, and it's so close, but he's gonna be the first to fall.
And Pixie kind of reminding Chap, hey, we're familiar with each other for a reason, but Jonas and Pixie, they just had too much of an advantage, knowing that the Storm Surge was trickling in, essentially. It just put too much pressure onto Chap and Teeny. They were just taking recklessly aggressive fights, not methodically calculated ones.
Reminder, Falcons, Teeny, and Chap were your first place team coming into match number 2. They are now down and out, effectively opening up the leaderboards for other teams to start to climb on up now.
Casper and Prism as well. I think that this is a duo that has really caught some pretty big attention given their recent performances in EU. Casper as well finds FKS in that flashback moment, but Janice, Pixie especially is in a really rough position, trying to deal with Quanti at the same time as well, but these two know they've just got to disengage. They need an opportunity to get that mech hit off, so Pixie will find a moment here, but Quanti still good pose, pretty big threat. all depends on how Janus and Pixie actually choose to leave from this current position.
Take a look at Epic Whale Muzz right now. Also below the Storm Surge here, they just need a little tag. Bring your focus down to that bottom right, that map. We're in zone 5 out of 12, right? So we're getting into the late part of the game. Things are gonna get to real small with the circle, and it's only gonna become more and more difficult if you're one of those teams that don't have heals.
The problem is when you're also a team like Muzz and Epic, you had the shield, you had the white heals, but you're losing all of it because you're just underneath that Storm Surge. Finally, they'll manage to catch a break in the form of damage. And they'll look to try and see what they can scavenge here at the top of Rift Island. Surprisingly enough, mostly undisturbed.
Little update there as a Daphne FKS fully eliminated, so 10th place is out, first place is out. Cammy and Seti not looking too great right here. Below the damage threshold as well. Again, what that means is that lightning bolt is going to start coming down from the sky. They're going to start losing 25 HP over the course of time. Periodically, it'll start to add up. Flixie and Vico, this is why they're fighting all the teams, because they need to. Otherwise, they will be sent back to the lobby for not doing enough damage. Here it is. Vico gets slammed in on from 2 angles, but Cammy gets crushed by a devastating shot. Vico hits the one that he needs to. Meanwhile, Rise and Yuma jump into the mix here. This is our team in the lead here. Vico, though, is so good that he is putting up numbers up against every single region right now. It's still defending for his teammate.
He's just trying to make sure that he can throw Flixie into a safe position. Revive is clearly on his mind. Armored walls are going to be sent out. Yuma, Rise, they're hoping that they can try to collapse, but I fear the moment has left them. Vico doing so much when it mattered most to hold his ground. And sure enough, the revive is a success. Flixie has been brought back into this battle, and that's going to cause Rise and Yuma to reconsider whether they actually want to take this engagement.
And that was our current first and second place teams basically to be going head to head. But let's jump in with Clone and Kramsu right now. Another team very, very desperate here to find a fight. Clicks and Epic Whale are the team not so desperate, but ready to defend. But no, they lose the walls first. This is not looking good. But they end up finding the shots, and Clicks is so fast. He hits one and then the second before they can even notice what happened to them.
Yeah, you know this guy's been taking some tips from Meno. I mean, he's been forming his own kind of master class at this stage.
The edit in, caught by Vino there. The trap was delayed. So good.
That's exactly the kind of bounce back too that you would hope for, especially when you consider game number 1 probably got a little bit more messy than what they'd initially intended. So moments like that can really captivate a lot of momentum for players on the big stage.
You know, you make a great point. The first game was really difficult for them. They spend a little too much time inside the storm. So look, already micro adjustments starting to come in, but Muzz and Epic Whale here. Muzz is down, or sorry, Epic Whale's down. Muzz is by himself. He finds the tags that he needs, doubles back to save his teammate as the Storm Surge was doing damage. And Vadil and Reason are recognizing, wait a second, why did you stop pushing here? Something clearly went wrong. Muzz now has to back off. I don't even think he got to pick up his teammate in time. No, Epic Whale gets finished there. And the development now for Muzz is that he is left by himself with nothing to really work with. I mean, it's all but over for him at this point if Vadil and Reason want to push.
At the same time, though, Muzz is definitely a bit of a solo mastermind. If anybody could look for a clutch opportunity, the real issue that I'm seeing right now, though, MDF, Baka, Pars, right behind where Muzz is currently fixated. And if he wants to press forward, Vadil and Reason on the other end of these walls, it's going to cost Muzz so much if he's able to escape this as far as his builds are concerned. He's already looking low on that material count.
Yeah, you saw him look through the wall. I was like, wait, what's left there? Nothing. And I think that was a mistake because now Varial and Reason can tell, wait, he's still pretty close, and they definitely know he's a weakened solo. But hey, if Muzz can stay alive, he has the zone, he'll be okay for a little bit of time. Placement points are just moments away. Take a look from the other perspective, how the damage ended up racking up there. An excellent tag by Reason, and then the Surge finishes the job there in the end. So very, very close. Had you know, they not have that problem, they definitely were the team ahead. But here's a team that hasn't really found their footing just yet. Peterbot and Boyo trying to figure it out in match number 2 right now.
Well, you say that, but Peterbot was kind of on a rampage in our first lobby. But this time, obviously, hoping that he can do it alongside his duo, Pipoli, Kayota. They are met with an armored wall. The moment that they try to aggress onto Pars and Baka, and be forced to drop to the low ground, seeing they could try chop out these floors from underneath, but Pars, Baka, they recognize there's too much desperation from this duo. We don't need to take any sort of risky peeks. We're just gonna stay them back.
They kind of have to, though, but no, Mapoli goes up to the box by himself. Baka and Pars are some of the best to do it, though, and they hit their tags. Literally granted a huge opportunity there to get comfortable and situated in this game now. Meanwhile, Clix and Vino on a huge rotate here across the map. Talk about a night and day position to be in. Eland, material, and much more to work with right now. Clix, though, has to buy some time, get a little healthy here. Starting to run out of shields to work with, though, but still, they get time to regather themselves, to compose themselves for a moment.
The most important part was looking at both of their material counts. That is a strong build count for them to work with, and they're gonna need every bit of it, because when you look at Titans like Thomas HT and Queasy up on the high ground already, just trying to take advantageous shots, and any of these teams that are starting to trickle their way in, trying to see if they can suppress as many duos as possible to those mid and low ground layers.
Well, here it is. It seems like they've been able to catch a little bit of extra information there. Now looking for teams nearby. Bryson Bolt's going to be one of the first to go ahead and be in the line of sights here. But the zone hasn't popped just yet. They know it's got to go north. They're working their way through this build here. The cover's been blown, and they back off. Happy with the few tags, but still, they need more eliminations. Surely more placement points if they want to jump up to top 5, as those teams are still in this game. Meanwhile, Queasy still ramping his way across the high ground, right?
And that's for sure. Queasy, Thomas, they're going to try to hold on to hype for as long as possible. Ideally, the entire game, if possible, like what we saw at Chapatini in the last match. But Acorn Cold, very efficient, found a slight inside rotate despite so much congestion having pooled in the real center of that last zone. But everybody's got to get a move on now. Poyo, Peterbot just doing what they can to stay ahead of the pack. That reveal medallion as well, going to help them pinpoint some of these solos that might be running through these pre-existing builds.
Yeah, those extra layers right there. But look at this, Clix and Vino catching up with a tear there. Peterbot and Boyo find Yuma as well, effectively taking down some of that immediate competition, right? You want to start dropping those players that are up at the top of the standings if you want to jump over them. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be very hard to do, but they are doing just that. Meanwhile, the wider shot tells us the whole story. There's an indestructible bridge separating the high ground layers from the lows.
And Pico, Flixie, they didn't manage to find the victory royale the way that they would have hoped in match 1, and now staring down their own demise here. Flixie gonna get knocked. Vico not gonna have an opportunity either to recover this one. Just too much pre-existing pressure. But Peterbot could go massive here. Acorn's gonna get caught out, and Peterbot gets the shutdown.
Oh, but someone comes from behind, and down goes Peterbot. Just like that, it's Cold to the rescue basically here, making up for lost time there. And at the end of the day, the real winner here is Cold. He gets more placement points. He gets to heal out now and kind of wait this one out. Meanwhile, Clix is still alive here, working his way through the game. Queasy and Thomas make their way up to the Rift Island. They are looking better than ever. There is so much material to farm back up here as well.
It's looking next to impossible for anybody to try and effectively challenge for high MDF, but we see great things happen. Clix, on the other hand, alongside of Veno, they're gonna fall back to back. Trulex and Chicho now seeing if they can try and finagle their way into that top leaderboard placements. Badil's gonna be the next one they knock. Reason forced to play this one out as a solo.
Game 2 already looking kind of crazy. Reason takes down Mustache there, and he gets to secure the med kit. That's a huge
medallion
pick up right there. The medallion as well to give him that little bit of extra push here. And look at that. Of all the players that came into the game inside the top 5, Chicho and Trulex are one of the only ones standing here now. With 8 eliminations, they have ran their way up the standings and put themselves into this incredible conversation of a team to look out for right now. Rise and Agers, a great performance. Booga and Rapid show up and get put down, and now it's a top 3, but it's just Pars and Baka down here. Queasy and Thomas have all the time in the world.
Queasy and Thomas are sitting like kings right now at height, just watching all this catastrophe unfold underneath. Chicho, Trulex, they know they've got to deal with this team on high ground. All you see is the armored walls stacked in the sky. Trulex gonna opt for the medkit play instead, hope that he can outlast Baka in the process. But again, at the end of the day, he's just staring down Queasy and Thomas on height.
They're starting to look down here. They're starting to put some tags in. They see what's going on. It's just a matter of moments. 8 eliminations for Queasy and Thomas. They look up, who's trying to land on us? And of course, it's the one and only coming out the storm, Baka there, who just went with a desperate play. Meanwhile, Trulex down low. If he starts to focus in here, he falls so fast. And Baka has high ground now. This is a little scary, but the tag is so good for Queasy.
And the incredible part about it still, MDF, Queasy already had the record for most victory royales in FNCS finals, but he extends that from 25 to now 26 with this last victory royale. Incredible stuff. I want to hear more for what Ada has to say.
That's right, yeah. Would you please give it up for Thomas HD and Queasy? Pop up for me, fellas. Everyone wants to see those faces. Let me see those faces. You know, 8 eliminations, a great start to proceedings there. Queasy, I mean, what is it like playing with someone like Thomas? He's got the eye of the tiger. He sees things that no one else sees.
I don't have to worry about Surge. I literally did like 200 damage that game, and we were 600 above or something, so it's pretty easy.
I mean, Thomas, you've been there. You've got almost every single T-shirt but the FNCS Global Championships. That would be the icing on the cake. Game 2, it's now yours. What have you felt out there so far? What do you feel in the lobby and players around you that are kind of causing you a bit of concern?
I mean, it's like really nice to play on the stage again. Like, we only have like 2 lands a year, so yeah. I'm just happy we won a game, like, and we can prove ourselves finally.
I'm seeing as well, Queasy. I mean, there's a lot of fans out here. Hey, you guys cheering you guys' names all the time. Let them hear Fort Worth, Queasy and Thomas HD. Let them hear you. Come on. Right. How does it feel to compete as well in front of an audience like this as well? Obviously, there's 10 games left, but are you embracing every second of this alongside your partner?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I got some important people in the audience that told me that I should go hide and not die, and that's what I did, and we won the game.
Okay, I'd love to see it. And one more time, would you please, Fort Worth, give it up for your Game 2 winners, Thomas and Queasy! Doesn't that feel good? Doesn't that feel good here in the Raw? You guys have been amazing. You guys at home as well have been fantastic. A quick break from us again here on the main show, but do not go anywhere. There's loads more coming away. 4 more games today. Don't go anywhere.
Welcome back, everyone, to the FNCS Global Championship. We just wrapped up game number 2. Queasy, Thomas, HD get themselves the victory royale. And on top of that, 10 eliminations. They are looking for that Global Championship title. We interviewed them. You saw the confidence. They're here to play.
Well, Zeke, you went ahead and said on top of that. What about being on top of the lobby, Levin? I mean, Queasy, typical. Finding himself up on the higher ground. But the most impressive thing for me that game is, it's been very, very hard throughout the entirety of the year to play these metas from 8th zone, maintain the higher ground throughout the entirety of the end game, but they did it.
I mean, look, you say typical, but if you've been watching the EU this year, it's not been typical of Queasy, right? This year, we've had to suffer and watch Queasy do this whole... I'm willing to see him up on height. I think everybody expected to see them sort of be playing on all sorts of layers today, but seeing them up there, right, they looked comfortable. They looked like they're in their element. All throughout this game, Thomas HD, another level when it came to shots he was able to hit, and you saw them just wiping out people below in this game. A top game from Queasy and Thomas.
Just wild to consider, right? Like the fact that they took height around like 8th zone and they just held it, and no one thinks about contesting them. They head on over to Rift Island, flying above. They're like, hey, we don't even have to build. And if anything happens, we've got launch pads out if something were to go crazy. Them getting this victory royale is very, very scary, right? Because now they're kind of setting a precedent. You give us high ground, you give us a victory royale.
Starting to see the effect, right, of some of the other teams be impacted earlier on in the game, right? Like, we haven't really seen a Peterbot and Pollo alive in either one of these first 2 games yet, right? We know Clicks and Veno also struggling throughout that early game, not really able to find their footing either, which are typical names that we might see go up there or apply pressure. But right now, I mean, when they find themselves up there, if there's no pressure being applied, it might be a little too easy for them.
I mean, I think the great thing for Queasy and Thomas here is that, of course, a lot of people saw that they were going to be landing towards that southeast, and they wondered, landing at that base, are they really going to be able to cook, especially with far zones, right? This zone pulled all the way across the map, and we saw that they were able to play out of that spot with relative ease, causing problems in the mid-game, really nice surge-based positioning as well. They clearly have a game plan locked in here that seems to be working, Zeke.
Absolutely, and we actually have a listen-in from that moment on height. So let's take a look at this.
Spring.
You don't have a dash?
Yeah, I have one.
Okay.
1 or 2. I can't
74. Pulls far. I'm single layering. We're gonna have to dash and fight though. Top 3. 2 duos. Maybe we fizz and drop down right now. We fizz and drop down right now for sure. I have armor.
Yeah. I have no ammo. Can we drop low ground or what?
Yeah, okay. Well, we can...
Fizz.
Okay. Yeah. Fight this guy, yeah.
Look up,
Kill last one, yeah.
Also, NDF, one thing we're really going to get a chance to see is how the micro adjustments continue to unfold, because at this stage, you really want to make sure you're setting yourself up for the best recipe for success heading into day 2, but this halfway mark could really be the telling tale.
Yeah, and we're kind of jumping back to match 1 vibes right here. Cal Gamer, Haman versus CZB and Nathan. They won the first fight, kind of fizzled out the second. This one now is all up to Cal right here. Cal finds the first tag and no duo insight yet. Kind of runs off to a safe spot. Very smart position to put him in. Meanwhile, Nathan has more time to go ahead and start healing up, but no material. We all know Fortnite's a game of builds and attrition, and if you have the mats, you usually have the fight in the bag. Cal Gamer comes on top for the Middle East.
That is a big clutch opportunity there for Cal Gamer, because him and Aman definitely need to start rebuilding a little bit more in terms of that leaderboard, but again, they're not the only ones with that vision in mind. Merstash, Malabuka, Restored Reels one more time. Oshi, Worthy, and Alex. I love seeing them lurk in the horizon, but the way that they've chosen to split that POI is pretty interesting.
I want to see more Worthy perspective in Alex there, but we have to see what's happening here between Oshi and Middle East here. This is a really big fight for FKS and Adapter, whom are winning at the moment. Tinka goes down, Daneth is down as well. Adapter collapse from both angles so perfectly. Look at it from Adapter's perspective, just
of that supportive fire coming in as well. Perfect timing. Phaser and King, though, slight world of hurt here. Phaser trying to do what he can, but at the same time, we'll have to just check back in with him, see how he manages as a solo for the time being, because we've got action heating up here at Restored Reels. So many medkits getting tossed out, but Merstash and Malabuka manage to take this one over yet again. 2 eliminations in the bag, plenty of heals to work with as well, so they'll be able to recuperate nicely.
Take a look from Merstash's perspective there. He lands a great tag on the Worthy so fast. Then Malabuka finishes off Alex, who's a little weak there. Almost finishes Malabuka even with the HP disadvantage, proving that he definitely had the better shot, but just gonna come up short there. Meanwhile, Threats and Trashy have gone up against Peterbot and Boy, and you can see the results of that. Not very good for Trashy at the moment, but Man City Threats, if it's one thing that we know, is that he's a veteran of North America. He's gonna stick around and try to put down some numbers here.
Know a lot of players, definitely big fans of that thermal scope as well, but it's gonna take more than 1 or 2 nice shots for Threats to work his way out of this position. Keep in mind, he's still possibly gonna get sandwiched here if he's not careful. Peterbot Pollo still close enough that they could continue to play spoiler there for Threats. The Yapko and Swizzy also on the wraparound here. They're gonna choose to just try and work their way through Charon's Crossing. Not really interested in sticking around.
Garrison Shari, center zone right now, chasing down Phaser. Phaser gets inside the tunnel. We've seen some very fun plays go down here, but this dynamic not too exciting. And I mean, it's just simple math, right? There's only so many places you could be. Kiros takes down Shari. They already took down King, and that's gonna be quick wraps for that duo. Meanwhile, on the other side, Queasy and Thomas HD right now, very much situated, coming off of the victory royale. No one, just like no one in sight either, right? Very, very comfortable as far as the spacing is concerned right now.
Hey, we already heard what the comm sounded like for Queasy and Thomas and what their intention is as far as the matches here today. Just get height, don't get eliminated. It's as simple as that, or at least it sounds like it on paper, but taking height in the first place is the real challenge.
It's so easy, right? Just do it, basically, is what Queasy's trying to say here. Keep the mentality locked in, and they do just that. And honestly, I think the more important insight, how much he depends and relies on Thomas HD, knowing that, hey, Surge, we got it covered. I have one of the best duelists, right? Like in the game right here, in the world. Thomas HD, no stranger to hitting those shots when they matter. Meanwhile, Flixie and Vico, they have to make up for that shortcoming in game number 2, falling in the mid game.
Yeah, and it's all gonna pop off here yet again by the Forecast Tower. one that's situated in between Reckless Railways, Mount Olympus, and realistically, Bryce Bolts, you have to keep in mind, they've been in their backyard, and that's exactly what they're after. They find Job and Michael trying to just sneak around the low ground, but it's not going to work this time as Bolts and Bryce find their first elimination. That's a nice amount of surge damage as well, so they can afford now to stay engaged in this fight for the forecast tower in comparison to maybe Vico, Flixie, depending on what their surge tags might look like.
Yeah, and you know, Job and Michael had that strategy. They were to come in with this surprise contest, and it just seems like things are a little difficult for them. But Swizzy and Jopko, right, talking about coming over insurmountable difficulties just to make it this far. Swizzy finding his footing here. He's gonna take down Ping and Walks. Just one of the two for nations starting to fall their way. These are critical points now for the tournament standings. On the other side, Clix and Vino make it out of the drop. And now they're on their way to the north side of the zone here. Still cold, so dangerous on the outskirts here.
Cold making sure to just use the natural terrain, keep himself as concealed as possible. But again, Clix and Veno are more than aware of just how much attention the forecast tower is bound to draw towards them and their initial rotates, but it seems as if Veno and Clix were a little bit more fixated on trying to deal with Shari, Giras, but now having to look back because of the tags that came into play from Cold and Acorn, and Sherry probably a little bit happy about having some of that pressure alleviated temporarily.
I saw Vino saying, wait, is that a solo rotating back here? So he's a little bit more keen now to rotate towards that duo. Nice find on the cactus here. This map awareness from Clix and Vino, given that this is their natural terrain, is flexing right now. But Giras and Shari, they let up the pedal a little bit, and all of a sudden now they're perched up above them. Flixie and Vico here do not want to give this one up here, though. They have chased Michael into the storm, who Michael just wants to save his teammate Job, but no. He's pushed the wrong way. First through Bryce and Bolts, now through Vico and Flixie, and just like that, it's over.
One of the beauties of LAN, I wish you guys could have witnessed it. Vico's mom getting a chance to see him in action, just shouting the moment that they find those eliminations. Other here trying to power through the likes of Toyota and Mipoli, but Ritual, he's lost his shield entirely, has more than enough to recover though, but what he needs is for Reed to continue to buy him time. So much pressure. Both Mipoli and Toyota choosing to take the same angle, at least for right now, but that could provide the wiggle room opportunity here for Reed and Ritual to get a wraparound effect.
Really get to lock in right now. Asia has had quite the appearance so far, as I'm looking at the standings on the side, but things are starting to get updated here. I'm seeing teams fall, players and teams get eliminated as things continue to develop here. And talk about Asian teams in the distance, you have Zagu up close, you have Bobby getting closer and closer. So it's almost like Re and Ritual are just getting surrounded by this entire region here.
And it's not just Asia either. If I'm not mistaken, it looked like Booga and Aviv are also kind of moseying their way over towards this action taking place by the weapon bunker, but Reed shredding through Mipoli's shield. Not enough to crack him just yet, but still forcing him back. It's clear that Reed and Ritual just want box control, take over the space overlying that bunker so they can make sure that they defend it with their own builds.
Well, Toyota and Mipoli trying to situate themselves for the first stab at the bunker. Bobby and Larpex trying to do the same there as they lurk nearby. On the other side, though, high ground here for center zone, looking for any teams off in the distance. Chicho and Trulix, the surprise pop-up in that end game last round, really showing up for themselves there. Team Falcon and Valiant.
If he hits
proud of that one.
If he hits someone from right there, man.
Ooh.
Okay, Chicho, we understand. The Monarch pistol, clearly one of your preferences for a reason, but still, I don't expect Chicho and Trulix to leave this position anytime soon. This is their bread and butter. Surge base up, take control of teams that are gonna be forcibly rotating from those outskirt positions on their drops, and just funnel control the way that they're actually moving on the map.
Oh, look at this. Unfortunately, second place Rise and Yuma now down and out. Once again, opening things up for a second there, but so far, that Asian team has put up quite the performance, right? Representing for their region. That's really the best part about this. We play all year to get the best players from every region globally together in one space to compete against each other. What a flagship event here, but on the other side, Vico and Flixie continuing the story here. They have the bunker now.
Probably rather content as well, knowing that, you know, they could take their time, but there is another team starting to approach their position, but it might just be a duo that's gliding overhead. Doesn't seem like they're gonna bother stopping or recognizing the fact even that there's a duo still lingering inside of this weapons bunker. Chapentini, on the other hand, dealing with the likes of Baka and Pars, outskirts of restored reels, and this could be a rather dangerous position because keep in mind, Trulex Chicho, they've got a surge base nearby as well. They could look for prime third-party opportunities, get some good tags in here.
Chapentini now on the run here from Baka and Pars. Smart disengage given that low ground terrain is going to be a lot more difficult to play from. Baka and Pars, honestly not in such a strong position themselves. 28 builds is nothing for a player like Baka, especially in this type of lobby. He really has to start to, you know, piecemeal something together, or their end game is it's going to crumble. It's going to crumble fast.
Part of the problem for Baka and Pars, though, is that landing by the ship at station, their intent is to try and make a play for one of the forecast towers. We've seen them throughout the majors in the regular seasons, right? And they've tried to consistently make plays for forecast, but they've got to deal with the likes of Peterbot, Poya, who are also making rotates, and it can be difficult for Baka and Pars as well to just maintain their map position because they have so many teams kind of surrounding them, looking to cut them off at every position.
Although it's only game 3, I do want to hit the VODs and see what's going on with Batman, Booga, and Rapid there, as they haven't quite really popped off up to the expectations. But hold up, Rift Island now officially secured by Baka and Pars. This is honestly a very, very good pickup here if they, of course, can get the loot, but an elimination would be even better. Teeny gets hurt in the process here. Chap secures the high position here in defense for his teammate. Singles out Baka. Baka down to just wood builds. They need to get some of the outskirts here. And already Chapentini secure the center of course, what will be the cache, right? All the loot that's going to go in and spawn out of that.
Capture point could be a really big advantage here for Chapentini as well. Baka Pars recognize more than anything else, they need to try and rebuild their material count. Granted, Rift Island can definitely provide, at the very least, ample amounts of bricks, but that's only if they're not disturbed in the process. And it seemed as if there are a couple more duos trying to make their way towards top of the Rift Island. Veno Clicks also still hanging out inside of the storm. Comes as no surprise, though, really, when you consider the fact they like to stick in the storm a little bit longer than some of these other teams. They're usually pretty consistent about getting those surge tag damages, but they can also be very dependent on the vending machine to accrue the heals to make sure that they can afford this time inside storm.
Vending machine makes a massive difference. Bunkers make a massive difference as well as far as having the heals to string together a strategy like this. Cammy and Seti clearly have a stronghold on their area. They're playing deep into the storm, and this is, again, a team that is no stranger to staying in the storm on these invitationals, on these LAN events, right? Like, we've seen it happen every single time. They almost welcome the storm, right? To stay away from the other opponents there.
Cammy and Seti, they were probably cheesing the moment that they found out the hover jets wouldn't be an option for players, because everyone knows, historically speaking, they perform incredibly well, if not possibly even best, during these no mobility or low mobility metas. So it comes as no surprise, really. They were able to find their surge damage, a little bit to work with at least, dead-side rotations, but Malabuka Mustache, jam-packed action potentially here at Restored Reels. Finding some decent shots, but more important aspect still is that Casper and Prism are under some heavy pressure. Those Storm Surge tags trickling in now might cost them all their splashes.
82 below. Pressure starting to rise here. Giannis gets pushed in, drops down to low ground. Just letting the Storm Surge kind of do its thing here for now. But Casper doesn't stop. He eggs on solo here into the wall of Pixie and Giannis. We've seen what happened to duos before. It normally doesn't end well. Malibu and Mustache also lurking nearby, hearing what's happening here.
And again, you can technically out-sustain the damage that's dealt, but 25 a tick, not to mention the other teams taking notes, shooting at you as well. Shield cracked has gone out. That might be the go sign here for Giannis and Pixie. They recognize the fact, though, this duo looking a little bit too desperate for him. Mustache Malibu instead gonna strike from behind. Casper, Prism, they were so fixated on Giannis and Pixie, they had no idea the real threat that awaited directly behind them.
Yeah, now Mustache and Malibu have nothing to worry about. They have so much damage. The refresh is there. They're going to be fully focused in on likely getting to the new line of the Storm here shortly. And they saw, like, you know, this team was fighting another team, so clearly they're very much aware. But wait a second, Pixie knocks on the wrong door. This is a full duo. Little did he know, he was likely thinking this was what was left of the other team that was just there, and Giannis falls for being out of position now. Mustache and Malibuca really racking up the eliminations this game.
Devious work there by Mustache and Malibuca, though. The way that they were able to separate Giannis and Pixie in that moment. Keep in mind, Pixie definitely still trying to do what he can, but yeah, that is just some very tactical play coming out of Malibuca and Mustache. Their chemistry definitely aligned. Pixie still trying to do what he can, but Malibuca and Mustache, they know it's a solo hidden somewhere amongst the rubble of these pre-existing builds. Pixie trying to hope that he can maintain a little bit better position, but he's just getting shredded. The builds are not going to withstand all the shots coming in. Malibuca and Mustache with yet another elimination. 807 damage above as well. They can take their sweet time now on the rotates.
And you see it from Mustache's perspective onto Casper. Say, huge shot there in the replay. Very well executed. Well, that's going to set themselves up for success. They have nothing to worry about other than get to Storm now. For Vino and Clicks, a little bit of a different story here. Still a successful game nonetheless. 2 elims, plenty of material to work with, especially in Clicks' reservoir here. However, the damage will start to become a problem soon. But talk about problems here. Kanata's got a big one. He's got XZ Trashy on the other side of the wall. Watching Kanata having to root from the sidelines.
Yeah, I mean, the ship at station has just been fully skeletonized at this point. All the walls practically torn down. Other player builds replacing them, but Kanata has done a decent job, at least at forcing Trashy back. And in fact, Trashy so low, Kanata not going to be able to get the outright elimination just yet, but he's hunting it down. Trashy just hoping that he can buy himself a little bit more time, and Kanata's got to be careful, because Queasy and Thomas, they're also nearby.
We already know Queasy and Thomas have the confidence coming off that last game. Big rotate coming out on the other side, though. It's Agers and Rise who are on the move right now. Rise is going to be the first to fall in this exchange here to the hands of Bolts. It seems Bolts and Bryce to get the elimination credit here. And Bolts and Bryce are holding on just barely. And Bryce willing to stay in the Storm. He needs these materials, trying to pick up what he can here to go and get himself a foundation to work with. And this is a congested side of the Storm. Look at how many teams, how many players are sitting around this general area.
This is a lot of our northeast-based teams as well. And Bryce, at least with that refresh on the material count, he's going to be able to at least dictate which direction he wants to head next. Might be able to protect himself on the disengage as well. Agers, though, might not find himself in a similar fashion. Still, the armored wall will at least prompt a forcible disengage for the time being. Everyone recognizing the fact they've got to scale over this hillside as they approach the raft.
Well, time to make a decision. Agers goes for the fight. And now he's in the Storm, but a tag is going to set him off here. The clock is ticking here. Just a couple moments left, and he jumps onto Muzz and Epic Whale. Tries to go for the axe through the wall, but instead delivers the loot to the hands of Muzz and Epic Whale, who really needed that, but the Storm ends up doing the rest there on this back edge. And it's just One problem after another now since match 1 for Epic Whale and Muzz here. It's going to be difficult to ask Epic to do much more at this point, given the situation.
Epic just hoping that he can survive, but that dream is shut down instantaneously. Just down from a distance, and not much left to do except sit and wait for match number 4 to begin. Trulex, on the other hand, though, no Chicho again. Some of our teams that are just trying to lead, unfortunately finding themselves in these compromised positions. If Trulex goes down now, MDF, that's going to be a heavy hit to placement points.
Yeah, definitely will set them back, given that they set themselves up with such a strong position now after that first game. Obviously coming in with a little bit of a lead, but how long can that lead last when you have people like Peterbot and Boyo putting sights on you? And looking at that update there, Cold and Acorn are down. Yuma and Rise are also down. This match 3, almost a defining moment for some teams here that had a real chance to break away, but as all things balance here, it's almost like we're brought down to reality. So Trulex, really the only player now in the lobby that has a 30-point gap, but for how much longer?
He's just trying to stay as concealed as possible and hopefully connect.
An elimination, really?
Yet again, Dukes now forced to play this one out as a solo. His box gonna get collapsed upon. Hiko though loses Quixie. Another one of our teams in the top 5 wiped out.
That is actually going to be very, very important for everyone who's on the bubble now, looking to jump up into that top 5 spot. And even better for the likes of Peterbot and Boyo, who are very much there. Thomas, HD, and Queasy, who have been running their way up the standings here. Look at this late rotate, allowing them to have this much visual. Not even needing to build walls on the side is a sign of confidence on its own.
Look at this Thomas now. He was just taking shots at the lobby leader. He's still got his sights set onto Trulex. Might have even identified him as a solo, but they're going to find themselves chopped. Malabuka, Merstash now trying to make their approach towards Queasy and Thomas. Meanwhile, Peterbot, Boyo, they're currently sitting inside of top 3, 3rd place to be specific, and they're going to instantaneously take over the hill. Prime position, also catching shots, tags, connecting onto Queasy. But the hill height is the real W here.
Well, I hate to call it early, but it is not looking good for the lobby if you're rooting against Peterbot and Boyo right now, as they've got themselves the natural elevation, the material count, and the base already set up. Meanwhile, Queasy finds himself in a bad rotate there, taken down. No elims earned this game. No chance that Thomas can survive there if he doesn't fight his way up. He doesn't even have mats here, the shield bubble, the saving grace, but also the flare to the lobby. Hey, I'm over here.
There's only so much that Thomas can do from this current position. And first, he's got to break through Yapko and Swizzy, throws out the shield bubble. It's his last hope at this point, hoping that there isn't a duo underneath him, but unfortunately, he won't even get a chance to reconsider where he wants to go next. Peterbot and Boyo, more than content to take the shutdown.
And they're the team up top, looking down on the rest of the lobby here. Other NA players still here, Re and Ritual. But you have EU's Huddy on the front side with Kovacs there. Peterbot looking down, putting tags onto the roofs of these builds. Huddy and Kovacs have 7 eliminations, but very little material now. It's gonna get super scrappy down here. They're in that conversation of top 5 here, though, as they've managed to nearly fight their way into a top position now. But things are slowing down. Everyone really thinking about what the next move's gonna be, what's best for their situation here in the tournament. Merstash, Malabuka look up, they say no. Peterbot and Boyo are still there.
Huddy and Kovacs, they're actually gonna opt to play from inside Storm. Now they're gonna make their move, but they're so late on this rotate. Peterbot and Boyo are bound to catch wind of this. Immediately, the shots rain in. Kovacs trying to scurry around, but he won't escape. There's too much pressure. Peterbot, too accurate as well. Another duo life getting flamed here in the mix. Merstash, Malabuka now caught wind of Reed. Unfortunately, front side of zone is not going to be controlled by Reed and Ritual much longer. Malabuka, Merstash here to play.
Yeah, and they did all that for a top 5, right? Look at how slow things have gone here, because everyone wants placement points. But the problem is now you're giving Peterbot and Boyo so much more time to decide about how they basically want to win this game here.
Ritual still trying to work his way through. He's crouching, he's breaking the builds, but Peterbot and Boyo MDF, I hate to call it early, but they are looking primed to take over here in match 3. Unless Merstash and Malabuka have something to say about it. Currently contesting Yapko and Swizzy. This could be a massive refresh for builds.
Swizzy and Yapko, 8 elims. What a monstrous game for them here. Top 3, breaking his way through the builds here. He still has a lot of gas in the tank here to work with, but Malabuka and Merstash put up such a strong defense there. A great tag onto Merstash to go and set things up, but he steps in now. It's time to throw it all down. It's all or nothing. Right hand peek here for Merstash is going to work well. Peter Van Polio jumped down from the high ground to go and get in the mix. One of those goes to them. Merstash is down. Malabuka's down. 2v2. All they got to do now is find the last shot, and Polio, hungrier than ever, is going to get one. They just need the second now.
Peter Van Polio there, tracking him down. Swizzy staring just a layer above. Polio's gonna fall though. This could be massive. Swizzy could actually take it, but Peterbot trying to shut that dream down. Peterbot, oh my God, is all he needs. Swizzy takes it home.
Peterbot and Polio get taken down to the hands of Swizzy. Phenomenal job there in the end. Just when you thought it was over, just when you thought he didn't have a chance, they clutched it up. They pulled through.
I have to put a little bit more respect onto Swizzy's name here. Keep in mind, he's a powerhouse player coming out of EU, but Adam, close on sight.
Thank you so much. Give it up for your Game 3 winners! Swizzy, wow. That was that one-on-one. Peterbot there, right at the very end. You managed to start that out perfectly, but walk us through the final stages, how that all went down.
I don't know, like, it was actually not as hard.
Not as hard, not as hard. Peterbot and Pure have been very strong throughout the competition so far, but Yapka, you guys are looking very good too. Walk us through the first 3 games of this competition. How has it felt for you two as a duo? Is everything panning out as you expected?
Yeah, we just adapted very good, I think, and we're just playing our game. I think it's pretty good. I'm pretty confident we can play good.
Obviously, we got a bit of a halftime break now. What do you guys do behind the scenes? Do you kind of go over tactics, strategy? How do things go now? Or do you just rest and relax for a second?
Yeah, we're just gonna take some break, like relax and think about the next 3 games.
And I'm gonna ask you as well, watching that at the end there, you watched Swizzy in that one-on-one. Are you feeding anything through on the comms then, or are you just keeping quiet and just letting him do his thing?
I mean, I'm just calling behind him, you know? I'm just telling him everything. Because I was still alive, so I could see everything on my screen.
Love to see that. One more time, give it up for Swizzy and Yapko, everyone! Thank you very much, guys. Now, obviously, you know that I've got a voice of an angel, okay? No one booked me for the halftime show. I can't believe it. I'm devastated. I don't hold grudges, but I actually blame Zeke. I could have done a repertoire of my Fortnite Festival classics, and I couldn't do it. Zeke, I blame you. It's over to you, buddy.
That's okay, Adam. You can blame me. Most people do. My gosh, Swizzy here. You could tell in the moment that like Swizzy's in like almost like a state of shock. Like he was literally shaking. And it's because he 1v2s Peterbot and Pollo. How many people in that exact situation, you're literally just like, it's that's it. These are the guys that I don't want to be fighting. This is it, the final moments of the game. And he answers the 1v2.
One of those games that you go and you're like, yeah, this one's over.
We all thought.
Peterbot and Pollo, yeah, they got the higher ground, and then it comes down to the 1v2, and it's like, yeah, they got it. And yeah, I don't know. Swizzy just hitting incredible shots from the low ground. Peterbot just not having everything reloaded right there at the end.
It's taken us so long to see this player on the big stage, and if this is what we've been missing out on, oh my goodness, I can't wait to see what we have in store. This guy has been performing at the highest level of Fortnite for about a year now, right? We saw towards the end of last year in Chapter 4 just how impressive he was when he won FNCS with Putrick. We wanted to see him at Globals. Unfortunately, we couldn't. Even this year, they qualified, they've been dominating EU. We couldn't see him with Vanya, and we thought, oh my goodness. I mean, cool, we get to see him, but it's not going to be the full power duo we thought we would. But Swizzy and Yapko been looking good, man, and Swizzy in particular, shining as always.
I just cannot believe that 10 eliminations onto that duo. And again, on the flip side, right, we still have to give props to Peterbot and Pollo.
Yeah, right.
They just absolutely dominated that game for so long. And those final few moments, right, when there's 3 duos remaining, you just wait. You're like, okay, when they start to fight at the bottom, we look to strike. Unfortunately, though, Swizzy was on the other side.
Yeah, this was actually one of those games that Peterbot and Pollo pretty much secured second place, or it, you know, could have been that victory way earlier than that. It was actually the 6th to 7th zone pool where everybody was actually northeast of Grimgate, but then the zone pulled southwest. It pulled all over that green river that gave everybody the dashes, but the difference there was that Peterbot and Pollo, they actually saved those dashes for 9th zone. Once they were able to rotate in the 9th zone, they used those dashes, they got ahead of Queasy and Thomas, they built up on the hill, and they had high ground for the rest of the game.
Yeah, and like you said, from there you just expect it to be easy street, and for the most part it was. Unfortunately, those final moments, we know just how tough they can be, but it's such a great sign for Peterbot and Pollo. We just talked the game before this about how, look, those games we saw earlier are probably some of the worst games we'll see them have, and yet they were still racking in big points. It only gets better from here.
I want to, we got to take this to a listen from those few moments because that was just a crazy run from Peterbot and Pollo. Let's take a look.
All right. We can get height. We can get up left and get height. Come. They're looking. 30.
Look here. No bills.
Yeah. Got it. We're good. 13 alive, by the way. Everyone's stacked.
Yeah,
I think everyone's stacked. You know what I'm saying?
I'm going. Yeah. Just look at the team's frame.
Yeah, I'm looking. Duo. They drop.
It's this team right here. This 60, no bills.
360 wood. Give me coin.
Yeah.
Give me coin. Right here.
He's reloading.
Always great to actually listen into the comms. 11, we were actually having a conversation about Peterbot's comms. You were listening to them over at EWC compared to...
Games you maybe was getting a bit quiet. I remember some of his teammates on the key, they were complaining, you got to talk a bit more to us, Peterbot's element here on this big stage.
Nice.
I love as well, in that situation where they made that beautiful little rotate up the hill, right? In place through, they're gone. And now they're thinking, okay, we have an opportunity here. We can really look to pull away. And again, just kind of telling the lobby, we are on height. You're not going to get to play the game. But when we're ready, we'll go ahead and pick you all up at the bottom.
Absolutely. And I mean, look, they're in first place. No surprises there. I think it's interesting how even with their success, if we're going to be critical here, I think we're seeing the effects of the whole RAF situation where they're not getting that whole POI to themselves. It feels like in some of the NAF and CSs this year, they would have gotten a POI like that all to themselves and been able to run with it, have cap loot. But the lack of loot, you'd argue, means, again, he doesn't have as much ammo, he can't spray as much towards that back end. When he runs out of shotgun ammo, he can't switch to his AUG, right, and use that. Small, fine margins, but it's, you know, causing a difference here. But if they're going to stay in first place, I mean, he's not going to be too bothered at the end of the day.
I mean, I'm happy you actually brought up the point of the RAF because that game we actually saw something a little bit different. First 2 games was very, very passive. No elims were kind of happening over there. But this game, Peterbot actually picked up Trashy very, very early on. So that could be the adaptation that they're kind of looking for to make sure they just get that extra little bit of an edge coming out of the RAF.
And Cammy, right? They also find another impact over on Cammy to just disrupt them and their plan. So just crazy. Malibuca Mustache as well, 3rd in that last game. Dude, I don't know. Like, think back to game 1. Malibuca Mustache just had this horrible game. They're just shambles the entire time. They're going down in zone. They're picking each other up. And now they come out swinging 3rd place with just an unbelievable performance.
Well, Malibuca and Mustache, that game number 3 right there, they actually took it to Alex and Rory. They elammed them very, very early on. But they didn't leave their POI. They did not leave reels at all, right? It was remained in the zone. And I think they picked up like 3 more eliminations from the POI alone, just picking up stragglers, picking up rotators. So awesome to see that they're very, very familiar around that POI, so much so that they can find elims even later on in the game.
I mean, when you look at Comp Fortnite this year, Vivid, it's been a matter of surge basing here and there.
Yeah.
That is not Malibuca and Mustache's game, right? They want to go into places where people are going to rotate into them and they want to fight people. And they did that so expertly here. And it felt like a vintage game for them, even towards the end game, right? Just causing havoc on lower layers is what they were always known for doing. And so it's great to see them in their element here on LAN.
I wanted to call out their 6th place Chap and Teeny. We see them just go up a few points there. They managed to fight that Rift Island, fight for that Rift Island and claim it. But we did not see them in that end game, right? Think back, they won game number 1, and then it's kind of, they're not necessarily stalling out, but there's something that is kind of keeping them from hitting these final few end games. What's going on? What do you think?
Well, maybe it's the giant surprise of them not landing where we were kind of expecting them to land. They're actually landing over at the Nitro Dome, right? Which, you know, very, very like them to kind of just randomly land somewhere. And maybe we're kind of seeing the effects of that, right? Maybe now that players around them have kind of adapted to how those rotations are kind of being made by them. They're like, oh, so this team's going to be doing this now. We're obviously not going to allow them to do that or something like that. But I'm sure there's adaptations being made by some of these players.
Absolutely. I wrote down a whole long list of like effects of them switching up their drop and the team's effects. Before we get to that though, right? Them landing on Nitro Dome, some added context. It was the spot they landed at, right? Last season, right? When they were playing. And when you actually look at where they were deciding to land, they never really committed to a spot, right? At one point, they wanted to go reckless and they were going to go towards the underworld. And it's funny, I spoke to Canada and Cooper a couple days ago, and they were like, for sure, those guys are going to go Nitro Dome. They knew, they were like, 100% those guys aren't committing to whatever they're saying they're going to commit to. They're going to land on us. And I guess they were very prepared for it. But even then, man, Trapattini is the kind of thing you expected them to do, right? Have some sort of switch up in game plan.
I love that the casters going into that game called out micro adjustments, right? Game to game, we're just thinking these little nuanced things. How do we get the upper hand on all of these duos? And of course, now being the halfway point, it is more important than ever to do so.
Yeah, and I'm happy that you actually brought up that halfway point, right? And quote unquote adaptations, because now that we are actually in that halfway mark, the players are off the stage. Right. They're actually behind the scenes right now. And right now they have the opportunity to not only talk amongst themselves, right? Kind of get refreshed, kind of reboot back up into the competition, but the opportunity to also talk to their coaches who are hopefully seeing things that they are not.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking to some of the coaches that are here, right? We were talking to Sven and Razari, right? Those guys coach a bunch of the players here, a bunch of the top teams here. And there are some top teams, I think, who have maybe had a quiet first 3 games. So there's going to be plenty to talk about behind the scenes.
That's right. Well, you heard it here. The players are currently on a halfway point break. So what we're going to do is we're going to step away. When we return, though, game number 4 from the FNCS Global Championship.
Well, hello, Fortnite fans. Kelly Link here in the Creator Lounge, where I am just surrounded by so many incredible people, and two of my favorite people are going to be joining me right now. Panda, Jacob PR. I feel like we're bringing it back all the way to NA West on the FNCS. It is so good to be talking with you guys. How you doing, Panda?
Hey, listen, it's the Global Championship, so you better believe we're loving it. What's going on, Texas?
It is so exciting, so electric, and I know that so many people here are excited for Game 4, but we do have a little bit of a break, Jacob. But when that break comes back, I'm ready for Game 4. What about you?
Oh, I'm definitely ready for it. Even though there's like a little bit of a slow start and some hiccups, including that last way the game ended, Peterbot and Pollo, oh my God, this is a legacy in the making, and there's 9 more games throughout the weekend, and I couldn't be more stoked.
But man, I thought that was going to be Peterbot and Pollo's game. Everything worked out so well from them on high ground, where we've seen them time and time again. But who was waiting for them on the low ground? Swizzy. Is that something you could have expected, that 1v1 going out that way?
Honestly, yeah, I can't lie. I predicted that was going to happen. No, I'm just kidding, guys. But no, honestly, really it is the nerves, right? That's the biggest moment that Peter...
is key, and in a lot of their big wins throughout the course to get here, it's been their consistency, and Pollo, I think, has been a huge backbone for this roster that doesn't get enough credit, so just a big shout out to Pollo.
Well, speaking of giving credit, Swizzy, absolutely incredible, not even playing with his main duo of Yapko and still taking the victory royale. What an incredible performance.
Yeah, honestly, listen, you can't count out Swizzy. He is a phenomenal player playing with Yapko. Obviously, shout out Van for not being here. But honestly, this duo is special. They still have a very, very good shot at taking that top spot. So just because Peterbot and Pollo are there now does not mean they've secured it. I'm telling you, there is still a lot of games to play.
Guys, I am so grateful for you to chat for me real quick. And before I let you go and go back to the desk, where can people find you? What do you have planned for the rest of the weekend?
Oh, listen, we got a ton of great stuff going on this weekend. Make sure to check WPanda on all socials. Jacob and I are hosting a post-Global Championship live stream, so make sure you tune in. I can't wait. And of course, the lovely Kelly Link. I'll let you send it off.
Oh my goodness, thank you. But real quick, Jacob, where can people find you? I know as far as watch party goes, you are constantly streaming FNCS watch parties. Where can people find you?
On Twitter and Twitch, you can go to Jacob MVPR, because I'm the most valuable Puerto Rican in this place.
Thank you guys so much, and let's head back to the desk.
No, Jacob, what?
Yeah. That's Jacob.
Dude, I love Jacob PR, bro. I'm honestly thankful he's not here, because if he was, he'd be so tall. Anyway, thank you so much to Life with Panda, Jacob PR. We love you guys. And I like that Panda kind of called out one thing specifically. There's still like a lot of games left to go. Keep in mind, we still have 3 today, 6 tomorrow, but under that 1.5 times multiplier. We're already seeing games go crazy. Things kind of unfold, maybe not in ways we expected. What have you guys been seeing and that maybe excites you about the last 3 games?
Why don't we go ahead and start with the early game here, Levin, right? There's big questions around, well, pretty much almost every single spot on the map. Yeah. But I think Brutal Beachhead was a big question mark. How was Acorn and Colden and Alex and Sato going to go? And right now, you know, game number 1 is a little bit passive. Games 2 and 3, though, Acorn and Cold have come out with 2 eliminations each one of those games.
Yeah, and that's huge, man. I mean, Acorn and Cold, if they weren't uncontested, would have been a favorite to win, right? So seeing how they did there was going to be crucial.
That's right. I actually just got word. We have an interview lined up. Adam Savage is standing by with our duo in the first place. Adam, what you got for us?
Well, I've currently got with me the leaders of our competition right now. Peterbot and Pollo join me here in the player lounge. Fellas, it has been an unbelievable start of proceedings. 23 eliminations, looking 23, I think so. Both you guys so far, yeah. Leading it. He was like, just me? 23, so but he expects that. He expects 23 straight up off the bat. What's that?
I gotta have 17. My AR aim right now is looking crazy.
Okay. Well, I mean, whatever happens, it's looking strong, and you're very much in the lead here. Pollo, walk us through the first kind of like couple of exchanges on the forecast towers first and foremost. You guys got it 1 time so far. Does that kind of does it concern you at all? Is that a real issue, or are you guys just kind of like heading through whatever happens regardless?
No, I think the first game, like we were getting held by a team, Baka Pars. They were sitting in like a bush. But after that, like after we were able to get to the fork, no one contested or anything. The next 2 games we weren't able to get it because they didn't spawn.
Well, we saw as well, like the zone shifting left, right, and center for you guys. How's it felt in those first 3 games, adapting as well? I mean, we saw that you're going to be a lot of players going to challenge you guys. You saw an elimination feed, clicks in that first game as well. That must have felt real good too.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like it felt good. It was just like I was like, so he got eliminated, and basically, I just got like 5 eliminations in one zone, and then like the win, like that I expected to win, and yeah, I mean.
Talk me through that exchange as well. There was Swis right at the very end of that last game there. Does those kind of moments get under your skin at all? Do you kind of feel those? Or you just going to move on to the next thing?
No, we got a 12 elimination second, so it really doesn't matter to me. We're in first by 40 points or something.
You're looking good. Poyo, I've got to ask you as well. We heard the crowd as well going wild. Obviously, you guys. Peterbot gets, I think, home court advantage to a degree. How does it feel for you as well? We're playing alongside Peterbot when you kind of hear the hype around from the fans here in the stadium and at home too.
I mean, it's amazing. It brings me up as well, like with Peter's fans. I mean, it affects me too.
Yeah. Well, you guys have had an unbelievable year thus far. Will they make it another win under their belts? With 3 games in, so far, it's looking very, very good for Peterbot and Poyo. For now, it's back to the desk. These guys getting back to their seats. Game 4 is imminent.
You know, I think one of my favorite things about Peterbot, I'm going to say something and let me get the whole thought out, okay? I love that, obviously, they're amazing. They play so well. And I love that Peterbot talks so much because Poyo is like an amazing player. And he's just like, yeah, Peterbot, you just talk for the team. I'm just going to sit way over here, talk for the team. Yeah, things are great, and they're amazing. I'm good. Okay, bye. That's one of my favorite things about them. Is that crazy? Am I crazy?
No, I mean, but I think it really, really works for them, right? And that's what you kind of need when it comes down to duo dynamic, right? Somebody's a little bit more vocal. Maybe that's how it kind of goes in game as well.
I mean, yeah, I think when you look at the dynamic of that team, anybody that plays with Peterbot is going to have to put their ego to the side. I mean, that guy's got enough ego for all 3 of us on the desk here. You know, he could talk for days, that young lad. But I mean, look, he's a top player and he backs up his talk with performances in game. And it was interesting there, you know, how Adam sort of asked him, like, do you sort of let losing that 2v1 affect you? And I think it's good that it doesn't, right? And he talks about how it doesn't matter, we're still at the top of the leaderboard. I mean, I think it's that sort of mentality to just keep going, even when things don't quite go right, is the key to why they're so successful.
Yeah, I mean, saying, I look, 12 elimination, Victor Royale, or second place. It isn't the Victor Royale. Now, if tomorrow, 1.5 times, you definitely want that Victor Royale. Those points are going to matter. But, bro, 12 eliminations and a second place, that's still a ton of points.
Right.
And as he called out, he eliminates the second through 5th teams. At that point, you're like, cool, I'm just creating a gap for me and Poyo.
Yeah, instantly looking towards the positives of the situations, not necessarily the negatives, which is really, really good. Now, we were kind of talking about something prior to the break, right? We were like, okay, now they have the opportunity to go ahead and converse amongst themselves with coaches, everything like that. What can we kind of expect going into game number 4 to maybe change, if anything at all?
I mean, one thing I think I noticed throughout the first couple games already was there was a bunch of teams actually switching up their spots. I felt like we were seeing a bunch of different people in areas of the map in early game where they just shouldn't have been. Like King and FaZe were all the way in like the southeast of the map. I think Michael and Job was somewhere there as well. At one point we're like, I thought you guys were landing all the way on the other side. So clearly there's been big switch ups already, and I think we'll probably see a couple more.
Absolutely. You guys have kind of started talking about Acorn and Cold. I kind of wanted to circle back to that conversation. The duo, how are they performing? Are they performing the way, I guess, you kind of, in your mind, envision they would on LAN?
Yeah, no, I think Acorn and Cold definitely are going to find themselves within the top 10. I actually predicted that they were going to be in first place at the end of day number 1. Right now, after 3 games, you know, Peterbot's got quite a lead, so I don't know if that's going to happen. I think they're performing very, very well, handling the all-spawn situation perfectly.
Yeah, clearly. I mean, I think most people who know me know I'm a big Cold fan, and I'm a massive Acorn fan as well, and I really do back these guys to do well in every given situation. I think we know with 1.5x points, we saw them in Major 3 and NA not having the best day 1, but with the 1.5x, the comeback that they had to place as well as they did, they're always going to be in the competition. No matter how far down the leaderboard these guys are, until we get to maybe game 11 tomorrow, right, they're going to be in this competition, and when you have that ability, that's a real big strength.
That's right. We've seen their off-spawn situation. We actually have a list in from this last one, so we'll see how this goes.
They're ahead of us, but
are they?
I see they're spotted.
Should we swerve? We swerve?
I mean, yeah, but I swerving.
Swerving.
They're down in this middle here.
Okay. I'm like lurking around, okay? 100.
61 or 60 another.
Just take our time, take a minute, take a minute. Right here. 34.
Don't be to that. You got 3 builds, he has no mess.
Cracked him.
He has no mess left. I'm on his own. 81. Come on, let's
You're
go,
him.
baby.
My god, let's go, bro.
That's so much, bro. We're chilling. We're literally vibing.
You are the best, bro. Good work.
We love getting those listens, right? Really getting to hone in on how are these duos communicating? What are they kind of calling out? And I just love these like little sneaky tactics, right? Really utilizing those third angles to kind of just sit underneath that little stair and go, yeah, I'm lurking, come around the corner. You're like, oh, it's just one person. Just kidding. Acorn's right over here. I just get shotgunned, I'm down, you're on your own.
Yeah, sounds like there was actually an adaptation. I mean, they're right. Should we swerve? And actually, they went ahead and did it. So there was actually a different idea going into that game. But still, even though they had to go ahead and adapt, they still executed on whatever they have planned for when something goes wrong on the drop. And I mean, you saw the situation in terms of loot. Cold had almost nothing, no shield, and Alex and Tato were all geared up, ready to go. Still won.
Right, that was one of the things I actually spoke to Sven about, right? Their coach. He talked about the prep they've been putting into off-spawn situations. I think they got a really bad reputation for off-spawns after what we saw in season 2 of this year, where they got bossed at Grimgate by Peter Bottom Boyo.
Yeah.
You know, we'll sweep that under the rag, right? Pretend that never happened. Right. And I think they've come into the Global Championships much more prepared, better ideas, different options, right? And they feel comfortable regardless of which option they have to take.
That's right. Our players are making their way back onto the stage right now. We are preparing to kick off game number 4 of the competition. As we continue to kind of talk about this micro adjustments, Levin, you called out something before we went to break here recently. The fact that Chap and Tini, they kind of, the single decision they made sent ripples throughout the game. I'm really interested to kind of tap into that. And
צ'אט, נראה לי לסגור את הלייב, כי אני לא יכול להשאיר את המחשב עוד הלוק. צפינו 2:40 במשחקים, אני לא יודע אם זה, אני חושב, יש 6 משחקים, אני לא בטוח כמה עבר. בקיצור, זה היה הלייב, תודה רבה שצפיתם, תירשמו, אם נהנתם, וגם כאילו אם נהנתם, תירשמו לערוץ, כאן תלחצו על הכפתור האדום למטה ותהפכו אותו לאפור, תיתנו לייק ללייב, זה בחינם, תוכלו גם להירשם לערוץ הראשי שלי, יש אותו כאן בצ'אט כאן, סגב דן. קוראים לערוץ הזה, אני מעלה שם גם מלא סרטונים. קוד בחנות בפורטנייט, סוויס, SWIS, ותפרגנו כל הלינקים בתיאור של הערוץ. תודה רבה לכל מי שצפה, יכולים גם לשתף את הלייב, להירשם עם פעמון שתדעו מתי אני עושה עוד לייבים. וזהו, אני עומד לצפות את הלייב, אנחנו נפגש בלייב הבא, יכול להיות מחר. תודה רבה למי שצפה, היה לייב טוב ונחמד, אנחנו נפגש מחר. ביי ביי ולילה טוב צ'אט.